Warcraft, the Tree of Eternity. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, The Powerful Sea Tribe. While Yufei was guessing, the shark warrior Agan had already described the experience of this operation to the Naga thug. Originally, Yufei was going to let Agan conceal the information about the magic depth charge, but this would not explain why only Agan could escape from the extremely flexible sea tribe team in the sea. In order to have a clear reason and to gain the trust of the Naga thug or the Naga tribe, Agan told the Naga thug everything, except that he was also captured for a period of time. After learning that the sea ship that had always seemed relatively weak could also cause such heavy casualties to the sea tribe, the Naga thug was also shocked. After letting Agan, who still had wounds from the bomb, rest, the Naga thug hurried to the deeper part of the sea basin. Yufei wanted Agan to follow the Naga thug to explore the details of the Naga tribe, but in order not to arouse suspicion, he could only suppress this idea temporarily. Then, Agan swam to his tribe. Since we can't contact the Naga tribe, it's good to understand the overall strength of the sea tribe first. The Naga tribe's current management of the sea tribe is still relatively extensive. The various sea tribes do not live together, and each occupies a place in this sea basin. Only when they need to go to war will they gather according to the previously divided teams, and different species will gather together. Now, what Agan wants to return to is naturally the shark tribe where he belongs. According to what Agan knows, there are hundreds of shark warriors in his shark tribe, and he is just an ordinary and slightly stronger one among them. Even so, Agan has the strength equivalent to that of a 7th level human in the sea, but it is discounted on land. Just one shark tribe has more than 100 7th level or even higher strongmen, which makes Yufei sigh. With such a huge sea basin, it is unknown how many sea tribes have migrated here, and the combined strength is really daunting. In the following 3 days, the expected summons did not appear. This made Yufei feel disappointed. Could it be that Queen Azshara didn't care about the loss of more than 300 sea tribes and the threat from the sea? However, the places where the Naga tribe lived were clearly separated from the other sea tribes, and Agan couldn't force his way in, so he had to give up. Of course, these 3 days were not without gains. Agan was now a commander without troops, and no longer had to lead the team to hunt sea beasts or attack sea ships. He wandered around the entire sea basin at Yufei's suggestion. In 3 days, although he didn't find out the details of the Naga tribe, he had a general understanding of the situation of other sea tribes. The strength of the sea tribe integrated by the Naga tribe was not as strong as Yufei imagined. Take the shark tribe as an example. The shark tribe, where Agan was located, was already a relatively large tribe among the shark people, and there were only 8 shark tribes in the entire sea basin, with less than 700 shark warriors in total. As for those low-level sea tribes, both the number of tribes and the number of sea tribes owned by each tribe increased greatly. For example, the tuna people, the best race for drilling through sea ships, have nearly 50 tribes of all sizes in this sea basin, and each tribe has at least more than 300 members. The tuna people are the largest and most powerful group among the low and medium level sea tribes. Slightly weaker than the mother barracuda people, group of people and other groups. These groups plus the tuna people are the main fighting force of the sea tribe. The lower level ones are some sea tribes that are not strong, but have a large number. These sea tribes may not be weak in front of ordinary people, but in the eyes of Yufei and the Night Elves, they are insignificant. In addition, there are some special existences in the sea tribe. For example, the giant whale warriors, that Forrest Gump saw, deep sea jellyfish, etc. These special existences are all extremely powerful, and can even be called overturning rivers and seas, but correspondingly, their numbers are very rare. For example, the giant whale warriors, whose power is much greater than that of mountain giants. According to Forrest Gump's exploration, there are only 3 here. It is worth mentioning that Yufei also found a large number of shrimp people and crab people in the sea tribe. The combat effectiveness of the shrimp and crab people in the sea is much weaker than that of other species, but they are still united by the Naga tribe and brought to the coastal waters. The meaning of this is easy to guess. It seems that the pirate's idea is correct. Under the leadership of the Naga tribe, the Sea tribe really came with the purpose of invading the continent of SYNOPSIS. The combat effectiveness of ordinary fish-human sea tribes will be greatly reduced when they arrive on land, but amphibious sea tribes such as shrimp and crab people will not have this problem. Finally, Ufeli made a comprehensive estimate. Although the combined strength of these sea tribes is still far from that of the Night Elves, it is probably not something that the Shadow Island organization can easily defeat. Even if the Shadow Island organization gathers all the pirates in the northern and eastern waters of SYNOPSIS to fight, the Sea tribe, relying on its own advantages in the sea, is enough to hold its own against the Shadow Island organization. This is just the Sea tribe. If the Naga tribe also takes action without hesitation, it is probably not the pirates who wipe out the Sea tribe, but the Sea tribe that destroys the pirates. But this is exactly what Ufeli wants to see. If the pirates can quickly expel the Sea tribe, how can he operate from it and realize his plan to control the Shadow Island organization and even conquer the Sea tribe? But if the Naga tribe fights with all their strength, I'm afraid that the pirates will be quickly defeated again, which is not what Ufeli expected. It seems that, if he wants to gain benefits between these two forces, he has to think of more ways. 3 days have passed, and there is still 1 day before the pirates of the Shadow Island organization gather at Shadow Island. The fleet of the Anchor pirates on Anchor Island has also started to set off, and Ufeli will follow the fleet to Shadow Island. This war is of great importance, and Ufeli needs to be on the scene to coordinate the overall situation. While the fleet of the Anchor pirates was sailing, there were new changes in the Shark Warrior Forest Gump controlled by Ufeli, which made Ufeli shift his attention to the seabed again. For 3 days, the Naga tribe did not call Forest Gump to inquire about the situation or assign him a new team. Ufeli was also happy with this. Through Forest Gump's exploration, he learned about the strength of the Sea tribe. However, just 3 days later, the Naga thug from last time appeared in the Shark tribe, where Forest Gump was. However, he did not come to find Agan, but to announce the order of the Naga tribe. According to the order of Queen Azura, all members of the Sharktooth tribe will be under my command, and together with the rest of the Sea tribe, we will gather in the center of the sea basin. The deep voice of the Naga thug sounded in the seabed, announcing that the Naga tribe seemed to have reacted to the previous events. Chapter 327 The Queen appears. Agan calmly followed the other shark warriors and rushed to the center of the sea basin with the Naga thugs. Along the way, he also saw many other groups of sea tribes heading in the same direction as them. Ufeli roughly estimated that at least 1/5 of the vassal sea tribes had been assembled. Could it be that the Naga tribe knew that the Shadow Island organization was gathering pirates to prepare for war with the Sea tribe? It shouldn't be. Not to mention that the Sea tribes had no channels to obtain such information. If they really knew that the pirates were going to go out in full force to fight against themselves, the Naga queen would never have assembled only 1/5 of the vassal sea tribes. Let's wait and see. Ufeli calmed down and continued to radiate his mental power through Agan, hoping to take advantage of this opportunity of the Sea tribe gathering to find out the truth about the Naga tribe. But soon, he was disappointed. The status gap between the Naga tribe and the ordinary Sea tribe seemed to be really large. Although the queen issued the order of the season, the summoned Sea tribe still gathered outside the area where the Naga tribe lived. This made it impossible for Ufeli to get detailed information about the Naga tribe. His mental power was emitted through the carrier of Agan, and in the sea, it could only emit about 1 kilometer. After approaching the Naga settlement, he found that the area he could sense was severely compressed. Ufeli felt that Agan seemed to have entered a mental field similar to his body, but more rigid and much weaker, which suppressed his mental power. Now, the distance he could sense was only 500 meters. However, although Ufeli had always relied on all-round mental power sensing, now that the detection range was suppressed, there were other ways to observe the Naga settlement. As a controlled existence, Ufeli could choose to receive what Agan could see, hear, and even feel. Since mental power sensing could not achieve the goal, Ufeli simply shared Agan's vision and observed the Naga settlement through this pair of naked eyes. This observation made Ufeli confirm his judgment in his heart. This Naga tribe is indeed different from other Advent wild monster groups in Warcraft. Looking around, Yufei saw many familiar Naga buildings, the most eye-catching of which was the tidal temple standing in the center of the settlement. After carefully feeling it, Yufei found that the spiritual field that restricted his mental power was emitted by the tidal temple. However, because the tidal temple is different from the tree of life and is a dead object, this spiritual field seems to be more lifeless and does not have the vitality of Yufei's body. I think the leader of the Naga tribe will never be like me, directly turning into the moth aboard of the Night Elves. Including the Naga tribe, only the moth aboard of the Night Elves in the Warcraft game is alive and can move. In this case, I'm inherently much stronger than the leader of the Naga tribe. Thinking of this, Yufei's heart was settled. No matter what kind of ability Queen Azura has, compared with Yufei who directly turned into the moth aboard of the Night Elves, it is definitely inferior. In this case, it is not impossible to conquer the Naga tribe. Wherever Agan's eyes went, Yufei also saw some familiar soldiers. They all looked similar, but with different sizes and colors, such as the Muga Plunderer, Muga Ocean Blood Witch, and Muga Ocean Hunter, the flying dragons swimming in the sea above the buildings, and the Naga Sirens and Naga Maniacs that could be vaguely seen through the gaps in the buildings. These were the Naga tribe's own soldiers. Unlike the Sea tribe, even the lowest level Muga soldiers in the Naga tribe were closer to human form in terms of body structure. The higher level Naga witches and Naga thugs could already be regarded as humans except for the difference in their lower bodies. That is, the Naga thugs looked fiercer and had a much stronger body. This also meant that the Naga tribe itself was better able to adapt to the environment on land than those tuna people and shark people. In addition to those amphibious shrimp people and crab people, even if they were not in the sea, the Naga tribe and its vassal sea tribe were a fighting force that could not be underestimated. What made Yufei feel relieved was that the Naga tribe had obviously not developed to the third level. Otherwise, Agan would have seen the Naga royal guards and dragon turtle. With the size of these two types of soldiers, if the Naga tribe already had them, they would definitely not be able to hide in the building. Just as Yufei was using Agan's body to observe the situation in the Naga settlement, the sea tribes that kept coming had finally arrived. Unlike Yufei's previous estimate, at least a quarter of the vassal sea tribes had come. Adding some of the Naga tribes that might be dispatched, this was already a big scene. But Yufei's face was strange at this time. Judging from the appearance of the Naga tribe, they were going to find a place with the Shadow Island organization. Yufei was not surprised that the sea tribes had learned about the Shadow Island organization and the location of the Shadow Island. The sea tribes had appeared in this sea area for about half a month and had attacked many ships. I'm afraid they all had a rough understanding of the distribution of forces in the Slays Sea and even some coastal areas. Shadow Island usually only exists as a symbolic base camp of the Shadow Island organization. At most, the pirate groups that enter the Shadow Island Council have garrisons on Shadow Island. More than a quarter of the sea tribes in this sea basin plus some Naga tribes can clean up Shadow Island in normal times. However, if the sea tribe troops gathered here now attack Shadow Island, Yufei imagined that most of the forces of all the pirate groups in the eastern and northern waters of the entire Slays continent gathered together, and the scene of flags covering the sky and thousands of ships covering the sea showed that he was very pessimistic about the sea tribes. However, the sea tribes are not fools. Even if the sea tribes and Naga tribes gathered here really go to attack Shadow Island, they will probably choose to retreat quietly after discovering the number of warships around Shadow Island on the seabed. Not everyone has the powerful detection ability of Yufei. Perhaps there will really be a scene where tens of thousands of sea tribes wander around under the pirate fleet without being discovered. Speculating in his mind about the various situations that may occur later, Yufei did not notice the new situation in the Naga settlement. 30 or 40 Naga thugs emerged from the building complex, followed by dozens of Naga sirens lined up in 2 rows. Further behind them was a coral bed carried by 4 Naga thugs. The Naga queen that Yufei had been hoping to meet appeared. Chapter 328 Exposed. Until this moment, Yufei came back to his senses from his thoughts and was shocked to find the appearance of the Naga queen. He didn't expect that the Naga queen Azura, whom he had been thinking hard about before, would appear in front of him so soon. That's right, with tens of thousands of sea tribes and some Naga troops going to war, the Naga queen must come out to inspect. Yufei's attention was highly focused, and the control dragon widened his eyes and looked carefully at Queen Azura on the coral bed. After seeing the appearance of Queen Azura clearly, Yufei's heart was full of strangeness. I thought that the queen of the Naga tribe, even if she was not a noble and cold real queen, would be a charming mature woman. Unexpectedly, what came into view was a lolly? That's right, this Naga queen has a petite figure and a pink complexion. Her small face is delicate but not charming, but exudes a kind of cute breath. The two sea blue cheeks behind the ears and a small diamond-shaped blue scale on the forehead add a lot of playfulness. What is this? The queen is a Lolita? Exclamation mark. These 6 words are clearly the names of those erotic novels on Earth. Yufei was a little speechless. Is this a coincidence? Since junior high school, he has had a clear definition of his aesthetics for the opposite sex, Lolita, Lily, and Control. Moreover, he has always been proud of his orientation of Lolita Control, and has never concealed it from his classmates. Many classmates in high school knew about Yufei's bad hobby. However, now that Yufei saw such a delicate Lolita like Queen Azura, he suddenly found that there was not much ripple in his heart. Damn it. Yufei felt bitter in his heart, and kept wailing in his heart, it's over. Turning into a tree really has sequely. This Lolita Control has no reaction to seeing such a beautiful Lolita now. Is this to make me have no offspring? Or has my sexual orientation changed to plants? Yufei kept brainwashing himself, silently chanting Lolita has 3 good points, Lolita has 3 good points. However, he did not notice that Queen Azura, who was carried out by 4 Naga thugs, and was still some distance away from the Sea Tribe team, had set her sights on the shark warrior Forrest Gump, whom he controlled. Yufei, who was trying to change his orientation from possible plant control to lolly control, suddenly found something wrong. Not good. He suddenly found that his mental power, which had been radiating around through Forrest Gump, seemed to be suddenly squeezed by a lot of force, and was forcibly suppressed for another 300 meters. Thinking that it was not good, Yufei took back his mental power and only observed the surrounding situation through Forrest Gump's senses. At this time, he found that 2 Naga thugs had come to Forrest Gump and grabbed him with a cold face. This, before going into battle, was it to sacrifice Forrest Gump, the shark warrior who lost the battle and buried more than 300 main sea tribes? Or was it that he had been exposed to control Forrest Gump to investigate the situation of the Sea Tribe and the Naga tribe? Yufei's heart sank. The strength of the Naga thugs was originally stronger than that of the ordinary shark warriors, not to mention that 2 Naga thugs came to capture Forrest Gump, and Forrest Gump had no power to resist at all. Yufei did not let Forrest Gump make any resistance. If he resisted the ruler, it would be even more obvious that something was wrong. In this way, Forrest Gump was taken to the open space in front of the Sea Tribe team by the 2 Naga thugs. Although the other shark warriors of the Shark-Tooth tribe were agitated, they were stopped by the leader of the tribe. Standing on this specially vacated open space, looking around, Forrest Gump was densely packed with more than 10,000 sea tribesmen gathered in front of him. Both the seabed and the seawater were crowded with sea tribesmen, forming a human wall, which brought him great pressure. Yufei could feel that the spiritual field emitted by the tidal temple had a greater pressure on him, and even like the tide, it was impacting his own spiritual power living in Forrest Gump's brain wave by wave. But after all, this spiritual field was relatively rigid and inactive, and there was no way to deal with Yufei. When Yufei was impacted by the mental field of the tidal temple, the lolly queen on the coral bed stared at Forrest Gump, who was under his control. It seemed that the reaction of the mental field of the tidal temple was caused by Queen Azura. After staring at Forrest Gump for a while, Queen Azura on the coral bed stood up. A soft voice sounded, proving the law that lolly are usually voiceless. How dare you control my Azura's subordinates? This shark man is also a waste. He buried more than 300 soldiers and was controlled by others. As she spoke, Azura's eyes turned cold. Humph, I didn't expect that there is such a powerful psychic like you among the pirates. The temple can't do anything to you. But watch carefully, my Sea Tribe army will flatten your broken island. Yufei was a little embarrassed, not only because his existence was discovered, but also because of the difference between what Queen Azura said and her appearance. Although from the appearance and voice, Queen Azura is a little unworthy of the name, just a lolly, but the words she said are worthy of the position of the queen. Next, without giving Eupheny any time to think, the two Naga thugs followed the queen's signal, raised their swords and directly cut the shark warrior Forrest Gump into 3 pieces. Damn it. Eupheny opened his eyes. This was the first time that someone he controlled was killed. It was really unpleasant. Eupheny didn't care about the lost mental power. He just replenished it from his body. What made him unhappy was that the Naga Queen didn't give him a chance to communicate at all and directly blocked this road. Well, you asked for it. Eupheny made a decision in his heart. He was going to let the gathered pirates prepare magic depth charges after arriving at Shadow Island in a while and give a big gift to the sea people. Queen Azura was probably because the speed of the sea people was much faster than the pirates' warships, so she was not afraid of the early warning that Eupheny might give to the pirates even if she knew the news in advance. The pirates on Shadow Island could not stop the sea people's army, and the support from other places was not as fast as the sea people's attack. It's a pity that Queen Azura didn't know that tigers hurt people, and people also wanted to kill tigers. Shadow Island is probably already gathering a large number of pirate fleets. The nearly 20,000 strong mixed team of sea tribes and Naga tribes will suffer a great loss under Euphony's scheme. This is also good. Euphony's eyes flashed. Let the Naga tribe suffer some losses first to beat down their arrogance before engaging them. Chapter 329 The Pirates' Response. The area around Shadow Island was already full of ships. The Anchor pirates arrived relatively late, but after all, they were one of the 4 major pirate groups, and there was still space for the Anchor pirates fleet to berth in the main port. There were too many pirate groups in the entire Shadow Island organization, and only a small number of warships could be moored in the large and small ports on Shadow Island, and most of the warships could only be parked outside the port. Fortunately, the wind and waves around Shadow Island have always been relatively small, so the thousands of warships that have arrived can be moored. As soon as he arrived at Shadow Island, Yorick immediately got off the ship to contact the 3 speakers and other members of the Shadow Island Parliament. According to Euphony's meaning, he had to spread the news of the sea tribe's attack as soon as possible so that the pirates could prepare in advance. Less than half an hour after Yorick got off the ship, the main port of Shadow Island was in turmoil. According to the instructions of the Parliament, a lot of magic depth charges were loaded on the pirate ships moored outside. At the same time, ports in other parts of Shadow Island also made their own preparations. Originally, the Parliament would not easily believe a piece of news whose truth or falsehood was unknown. However, Yorick hinted that this was the news brought by the powerful magician of the Anchor pirates. Secondly, the pirates were originally preparing to fight the sea tribe, and there was no loss in installing magic depth charges on the warships in advance, so they reacted so quickly. In order to convince the public, the 4 major pirate groups set an example. After announcing that the sea tribe might take the initiative to attack, they allocated most of their warships to the outermost perimeter. The Anchor pirates were naturally the same. Eupheny was now staying on a warship driven by the Night Elf pirates, closing his eyes to sense the seabed and check whether the sea tribe had arrived. Eupheny knew the speed of the sea tribe very well. Although most of the sea tribes moved much slower in the sea than the shark warrior Forrest Gump he had controlled before, it was more than twice the speed of ordinary pirate warships. If Shadow Island had not just gathered more than 3,000 pirate warships in advance, with the Sea Tribe and Naga Tribe teams seen before, it would really be possible for the Shadow Island organization to suffer a big loss. In order to prevent the Sea Tribes from discovering the true and false of Shadow Island at this time, the outer pirate ships were ordered to sail far away from Shadow Island. More than 500 pirate ships loaded with magic depth charges separated from the rest of the pirate ships, ready to fight against the sea tribes that might come. About half an hour later, Eupheny suddenly opened his eyes. Here they come. His mental power, which was scattered 10 kilometers away, clearly detected the traces of the sea tribes. The Naga Queen did not fight with this team, and the Tidal Temple was not here, so the sea tribes did not notice Euphony's mental power detection. There are more than 10,000 sea tribes, nearly half of which are the main forces such as tuna people and barracuda people. In addition to about 200 shark warriors, there are some weak sea tribes such as clownfish people. The Naga tribe dispatched about 2,000 mugger teams mixed with ocean blood witches and ocean hunters. There are also 30 Naga thugs, and about 70 Naga sirens, and nearly 100 flying dragons are also swimming around the Naga sirens as guards. With a thought, Yorick followed Eupheni's instructions, and passed the news of the sea tribe's attack to the surrounding ships through pirates. The pirates who had been prepared for a long time placed magic depth charges around the side of the ship, and dispatched the rare magicians among the pirates. About every 4 pirate ships gathered together, under the deployment of the Parliament, a magician who can cast the universal spell Liquid Perspective is assigned. Relying on this low-level universal magic, the pirates can find the sea tribe when they are close to a certain distance and drop bombs. If it weren't for the fact that the duration of this universal spell is not very long, the pirate magicians cannot always maintain this spell that can see the seabed clearly. In the battle with the sea tribe, the pirates will definitely have a considerable advantage. About 10 minutes after Eupheny issued the warning, the pirates on the outermost pirate ship discovered the sea creatures quietly advancing in the sea through the mirror formed by the liquid perspective on the sea surface. Resisting the urge to drop the bomb, the pirates followed the previous instructions and stayed still, continuing to swim on the sea surface, as if they had no idea about the situation on the seabed. After a brief discussion, the Parliament gave the pirates the order that, if they found the sea creatures, as long as they did not directly attack the outermost pirate ships, more sea creatures would be allowed to come in, and let them come to the bottom of the pirate fleet that was full of sea creatures. In this way, more casualties could be caused to the attacking sea creatures. The sea creatures on the seabed were not without a messy formation. The weakest sea creatures were at the forefront, followed by the main sea creatures and shark warriors. The Naga tribe's mugger troops followed behind the sea creatures, and the Naga siren, flying dragons and Naga thugs, the middle-level Naga troops, swam at the back. The sea tribes obviously found that there were many more ships on the sea than described in the information they had inquired, but they didn't care. In the sea tribe had the confidence that they would not be discovered by the enemies on the sea. And the pirates' strategy was also successful. They didn't find the thousands of warships in the inner circle. The sea tribe thought that the enemy only had the hundreds of warships above. That's it. Eupheny smiled. The sea tribe team gradually went deeper. The cannon fodder at the front was about to leave the sea area where the hundreds of pirate ships were distributed. When the Naga tribe's troops also entered the range of the depth charge, it was time to give the sea tribe a big gift of bombs. However, something unexpected happened. Eupheny had not retracted the mental power that was scattered on the seabed. He observed the Naga tribe troops at the back of the sea tribe, and estimated their strength, and compared them with the Night Elves. Just when those Naga sirens entered the distribution range of the pirate ships, Eupheny found that those Naga sirens suddenly changed their faces. Oops. They were discovered. Eupheny quickly realized where the mistake was. Naga siren is a type of soldier with magical abilities. Not to mention, when they are far away, they will definitely be able to detect magic fluctuations when they come to the range of liquid perspective. Immediately, Eupheny ordered the Night Elves on his ship to immediately drop magic depth charges. After Euphony's ship dropped the bombs, other pirate ships quickly followed suit. According to the previous instructions, as long as one ship discovers that the sea people are starting to attack, or that the sea people are aware of something wrong, the other ships must immediately follow suit. Chapter 330, Head-on Attack. With the effect of liquid perspective, the pirates can clearly see the position of the sea creatures, so they don't just randomly drop magic depth charges, but aim at a target. The pirates who had been prepared long ago threw the small but powerful bombs like dumplings on the sea surface, where the sea creatures were. Although the Naga sirens opened their mouths and emitted sharp sound waves immediately after noticing the troops, which immediately conveyed the order to retreat, but the sea creatures had already penetrated deep into the sea area where the pirate fleet was distributed, and the vanguard was even about to pass through this sea area, and there was no way to withdraw quickly for a while. The previous encounter with the sea creature team led by 4S Gump, the fleet led by Yorick only dropped 300 magic depth charges, which affected a large area of the sea and caused a huge momentum. But now, 500 pirate ships dropped more than 5,000 depth charges, instantly boiling the entire sea surface. boom, wow. Continuous explosions sounded. After the specially treated bombs that sank very quickly sensed the presence of the sea people, they exploded one after another. No, hundreds after hundreds. The effect of the magic depth charge after being triggered is to form a magic shockwave, which makes the liquid perspective performed by the pirate magicians also interfered with and invalidated by the powerful magic shockwave. Therefore, the pirates did not know how much damage the bomb group caused to the sea people. However, judging from the huge water columns that occasionally rose on the sea surface and the wave crests caused by the intensive explosions of some bombs, the effect of the magic depth charge is really good and powerful. The pirates can't see the current situation on the seabed, but Euphony can vaguely detect the situation in the sea within the range of the spread of mental power. The magic shockwave formed by thousands of magic depth charges interfered with Euphony's mental field, and the scene he felt was no longer as clear as before. However, after repeated efforts to scan, Euphony still saw the effect of the depth charges thrown by the pirates. The Naga tribe was at the back of the team. After the Naga siren noticed something unusual and warned them to retreat, the Naga tribe was the first to retreat. Therefore, only some Mugger raiders were killed in the explosion. Some injured Muggers were rescued by Mugger ocean blood witches. It can be said that the Naga tribe suffered very little loss. However, the loss of the sea tribe was horrible. Even those weak sea tribes who were cannon fodder were blown to pieces by more than one shockwave, even if they were outside the bomb range. The main force of the sea tribes, such as the tuna people, barracuda people, and grouper people, were just in the center of the sea area, where the pirate ships were distributed. They were bombed the most intensively, and they were not much better than those weak sea tribes. Even the powerful shark warriors, because they habitually swam close to the sea surface, were the first to trigger some magic depth charges, resulting in heavy casualties. More than 5,000 depth charges wreaked havoc in the sea for only a few minutes, but the sea turned a light blood red after the waves surged. After the sea calmed down a little, Euphony dispersed the mental power that he had collected when the seabed magic shockwave was the strongest, and began to count the casualties of the sea people. The pirate magicians on the surrounding pirate ships instantly felt a vast mental power sweeping through their bodies, and they couldn't help but shudder. Is this the great magician of the newly promoted anchor pirates among the 4 major pirate groups? Such a powerful and terrifying mental power. Could it be a great magician above the legendary level? The pirate magicians were all guessing. Euphony didn't care about the guesses of those weak magicians. He was shocked by the effect of the bomb cluster. In the sea, the weakest part of the sea people originally accounted for more than half of the sea people's forces, with a number of 6,000 to 7,000. After being baptized by thousands of depth charges, only about 1,500 lucky ones were left. Most of the remaining cannon fodders were able to save their lives because they had crossed the sea area where the pirate ships were distributed. Each of the shark warriors was a strong man of about level 7. Only about 100 shark warriors who were directly exposed to the bombs died. The remaining less than 100 shark warriors were only seriously or slightly injured, and half of them survived. Although the main force of the sea tribe in the middle was stronger, there were fewer survivors than the cannon fodder. The tuna people and barracuda people were much larger than the cannon fodder sea tribe, and they were in an area where magic depth charges were densely falling, so the magic shock waves they received were much stronger. However, their strength was not as strong as that of the shark warriors. They were generally only about level 4 or 5. Therefore, after the continuous bombing, there were less than 1,000 left. In this way, the number of sea tribe members lost by the sea tribe attacking Shadow Island exceeded 10,000, and half of them were the main force. In contrast, their combat objectives were not achieved at all. Before the sea tribe had time to destroy even one pirate ship, they were hit head-on by the pirates. Looking at the Red Sea, Euphony couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. As the saying goes, a general success is the result of the sacrifice of thousands of people. He had felt and expressed this feeling in the war between the Night Elves and the Kingdom of Severn. However, at that time, he could still clearly see the millions of bones which touched him, but in this naval battle, only some numbers were left after the war, and even the bones could not be seen. After a few sighs, Euphony got rid of his melancholy mood and began to command the Night Elf pirates on the ship to salvage some sea creatures floating on the sea. Most of the bodies of the sea creatures killed by the explosion were shattered and would not float to the surface of the sea. Only those sea creatures who were injured and stunned by the shockwave would float up. Yufei could see that the Nagas had the intention to rescue the injured and unconscious sea creatures, but they were afraid of being attacked by bombs when they came to the bottom of the pirate fleet to rescue the sea creatures, so they dared not act. After a while, the Naga team seemed to have received some orders, gave up the sea creatures who could not escape from the blood-red sea area by themselves, and retreated quickly. It seems that Queen Azura also has the ability to remotely command her subordinates, but it should be limited to the descended Naga tribe. Like herself, she cannot spread this ability to the conquered native races. Turning around, Yufei looked at the pirates who were also salvaging the sea tribe who had lost the ability to resist, and smiled slightly. After such a simple victory, and capturing thousands of sea tribes, the Shadow Island organization should be more determined to go to war with the sea tribe, right? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 Warzone Division. Yufei was somewhat surprised by the results of the pirates' battle. He didn't expect that. Even though Agan had reported the relevant information about the depth charge before, the sea people didn't take it seriously and just went to the bottom of the pirate fleet so carelessly. Yufei couldn't find any other adjectives except seeking death. I think the sea people didn't expect that the pirates had made full preparations, and even the magicians were assigned to cast liquid perspective in various places in this sea area to maximize the killing effect of the depth charge, so that nearly a quarter of the sea people conquered by the Naga tribe were buried in the hands of the pirates. I think that the arrogant Lully Queen should be very angry now, right? Yufei was secretly happy in his heart. The shark warriors I controlled were not so easy to kill. 10,000 sea people were buried with them. However, after this time, the sea people might not suffer such a big loss again. Even if the pirates spread the experience of using liquid perspective when fighting against the sea people, they would not easily kill the sea people again. After seeing the lethality of magic depth charges, it is estimated that not many sea creatures will be stupid enough to get under the pirate ship. In this way, the sea creatures' means of killing pirates will be weakened, and the damage to each other will be reduced a lot after the pirates and sea creatures go to war with each other. This is what Yufei is happy to see. In his plan, whether it is the pirates of the Shadow Island organization, or the sea creatures and the Naga behind them, they will all belong to his subordinates in the end. Therefore, in Yufei's eyes, the war between pirates and sea creatures is internal consumption. If the internal consumption is too serious, it means that his own strength has been damaged. This is something he cannot tolerate. The two sides are fighting fiercely, giving him the opportunity to operate and conquer them, and at the same time without too much loss, which is the best. After salvaging all the sea creatures that floated to the surface, the pirates were still not satisfied. The magician who had rested for a while used liquid perspective again, and the pirates cast fishing nets and started fishing in the place where the surviving sea creatures were found. In this way, without Yufei showing his ability to capture people from afar, the pirates captured the sea creatures who survived, but were seriously injured and unable to escape quickly, and tried to tame them. It seems that all pirate groups want to try Orcs' idea of taming the sea creatures and turning them into their own fighting power. After 2 hours of fishing, the liquid perspective technique could not find a sea creature that survived and failed to escape, and more than 500 pirate ships returned to Shadow Island. In the Shadow Hall, in the reconvent meeting, each member looked at Yorick with no more doubts and dissatisfaction. Whether in the previous operation of investigating the sea creatures attacking ships, or in the action of fighting the incoming sea creatures, the anchor pirates made convincing contributions, which made everyone unconsciously recognize Yorick's status as the fourth speaker, and one of the four major pirate groups. This can be reflected from the fact that the three speakers are no longer three people leading the pirate meeting, but Yorick is leading it together. This pirate meeting was to discuss how to fight the sea tribe, the distribution of combat materials, and the division of teams in combat areas. The large combat zone was divided into 4 areas: east, west, south, and north, with Shadow Island as the origin. The 4 major pirate groups were responsible for commanding one area respectively. The rest of the pirate groups were temporarily under the command of the 4 major pirate groups, searching for the sea tribe in their respective areas. As for how to clear and command, that was the business of the 4 pirate groups with the speaker seats. There was only one basic rule, that is, the fleets wandering around the respective areas searching for the sea tribe, and fighting with them could not be composed of less than 200 warships, in order to prevent them from being defeated one by one. In addition, more than 500 warships must be left around Shadow Island, to deal with the possible attack of the sea tribe again. Now there are more pirate groups rushing to Shadow Island, and the number of warships scattered around the entire Shadow Island has exceeded 4,500. After the basic battle plan was decided, the next step was to discuss which pirate groups would go to which battle area, which warships would stay to defend Shadow Island, and how often the magic depth charges should be reported. After considering the number of ships and the allocation of magicians who could use liquid perspective, it took about half a day to finally allocate the combat teams in the 4 battle zones. Yorick's Anchor Pirates was in charge of the southern battle zone, which Yorick fought for himself at Euphenia's suggestion. The basin where the Sea Tribe and the Naga tribe live is slightly south of the east of Shadow Island. If the eastern battle zone is chosen, there will be many battles with the Sea Tribe, and the Night Elves may suffer losses. Euphenia certainly doesn't want to do that. However, if it is in the northern and western battle zones, the contact with the Sea Tribe will become relatively rare, which does not conform to Euphenia's plan to operate between pirates and sea tribes. Therefore, he let Yorick choose to be in charge of the southern battle zone. After all the affairs were allocated, the orders were passed down from the parliament layer by layer. After fighting against the sea creatures and a half-day meeting, the assigned orders were issued, and it was already night, so the pirates began to rest and wait for the next day to adjust the team. On the second day, the surroundings of Shadow Island were in a mess. The ships of each pirate group began to adjust according to the teams assigned by the parliament, and came to the direction of their respective assigned war zones. Because there were too many ships, it took a whole day to adjust the team, which made Euphenia speechless about the efficiency of the pirates. During this day and a half, each pirate group also tried to tame the captured low-level and medium-level sea creatures. Not to mention, contrary to Euphenia's expectations, some pirates really tamed a few low-level sea creatures. Of course, these sea creatures are cannon fodder sea creatures such as clownfishmen and fine-scaled fishmen. That is, their combat effectiveness in the sea is slightly higher than that of ordinary strong pirates. As for the main populations of sea creatures such as tuna people, except for the more than 20 who were initially hypnotized by Euphenia and stayed on Shadow Island, none of the new captives were successfully tamed by the pirates. However, just taming the low-level sea creatures and the 20 or so mid-level sea creatures that Euphenia hypnotized was enough to prove Yorick's idea of enslaving the barbarians to control the barbarians, which made the pirates extremely optimistic about the future prospects of the Shadow Island organization. The Anchor Pirates also captured some sea creatures, including 3 shark warriors that Euphenia had captured on purpose. Euphenia planned to contact the sea creatures through these shark warriors after the Shadow Island organization and the sea creatures had clashed for a while, and even negotiate with Queen Azura. Chapter 332 Euphenia's Puzzlement. After controlling the 3 captured shark warriors with his mental power, Euphenia was not ready to let them go to negotiate with the Naga tribe. Presumably, the Naga Queen Azura is now angry. If she finds the shark warriors controlled by Euphenia through the tidal temple again, she will definitely kill them first. Euphenia's advantage now is that the suspected Traveser Queen Azura does not know that there is another Traveser in Esraz. To be honest, Euphenia still has a little excitement in his heart about the Lali who may also come from Earth. However, this is not playing a game after all, but a living alien world. So Euphenia must ensure that this other Traveser will not affect his plan to unify Esraz, and it is best to become a helper. Sorry, little Lali, Big Brother is not intentionally taking you to see the goldfish. No, it is not intentional to calculate you. Euphenia apologized insincerely in his heart, and ordered Yorick to allocate his pirate fleet, and never be polite when seeing the sea people. Although the Sea Clan suffered a great loss in the previous attack on Shadow Island, Yufei was able to find out the true strength of the Sea Clan and the Naga Clan through Agon. The Sea Clan was not inferior to the Shadow Island organization in terms of strength. Even if it lost about a quarter of its strength, it was not so easy for the pirates to beat it with the Sea Clan's advantage in the sea. What's more, there was the Naga Clan behind them. From the moment he saw the buildings of the Naga Clan, Yufei put the potential strength of the Naga Clan on the same level as the Night Elves. Although he only saw the number of Naga Clan through Agon before, who can say that what Yufei saw was all the building areas and soldiers of the Naga Clan? Don't the Night Elves also have several bases? Besides, Yufei doesn't believe that there are only a few Sea Clan in the huge Slay Sea. The native elves of the Dark Knight Empire now have hundreds of thousands, and the number of Sea Clan in the sea must be even greater. If the Naga tribe conquered more sea tribes as vassals, they might have the power to invade the continent of Slays. If Yufei wanted to conquer the Naga tribe, the first thing he had to do was to weaken the strength of the Naga tribe. If the Naga tribe was not weaker than the Night Elves, even if it was slightly weaker, why would they listen to you? Just because they were from the same hometown? Don't be kidding. Therefore, although he wanted to communicate with the fellow villager, Yufei still resolutely decided to shoot the fellow villager in the back. But, isn't it a bit unkind to bully a woman? Yufei touched his chin. It was obvious that the little figure was not a woman. It was not bullying at all. At most, it was just teasing a little lolly. In the next half month, Yufei was idle. After suffering a big loss, the Sea Tribe did not make any fierce revenge. This made Yufei look up to the Lolly Queen. The Shadow Island organization has always been on guard against possible retaliation from the Sea Clan. There are more than 500 warships distributed around Shadow Island, and magic mines are laid around each port. If the Sea Clan does not give up and invades again, even if they go all out, it will not be worth the loss to capture Shadow Island. And none of the pirate fleets swimming outside is composed of less than 200 warships. Each warship is loaded with a sufficient amount of magic depth charges and magic mines. The magic mines are loaded to control the sea surface when encountering the Sea Clan, so that the Sea Clan, especially those large-sized Sea Clan, dare not approach the sea surface to attack the pirate ships. In half a month, the pirate fleets and the Sea Clan team also encountered many times. It seems that the Sea Clan and the Shadow Island organization have reached a tacit understanding and no longer engage in large-scale battles. The two sides have been entangled for half a month, and the losses are not very large. However, when the Shadow Island organization discovered that the Sea Clan mainly appeared in the waters east of Shadow Island, it transferred some of the pirates in the northern and western theaters, where the Sea Clan rarely appeared, to the eastern theater. As for the southern theater of war that Yorick was in charge of, there was no deployment, because there were not a few sea tribes in the southern theater of war. The deployment of the pirates caused the losses of the sea tribes to gradually increase. After all, the pirates have these two weapons, magic depth charges and magic mines. If the sea tribes sneak under the pirate fleet to attack, they will be discovered by the pirate magicians who rotate personnel and continuously release liquid perspective, and then be blown dizzy by the bombs dropped by the pirates. If they float to the surface of the sea in advance and fight the pirates head on, the pirate fleet will stop directly and lay magic mines around to prevent the sea tribes from approaching. Then, the pirate fleets in other places will come to support, to deal with the sea tribes that float to the surface of the sea. The bed crossbows and artillery on the pirate ships and even the rare magic crystal cannons can show their power. Originally, the number of sea tribes and pirates in the eastern sea area was not proportional. The sea tribes could occasionally use a tactic of besieging and attacking the pirate fleet, which caused some losses. After some pirates from the southern and western theaters were transferred here, the sea tribes were at a disadvantage. It should be added here that Yufei did not think that the sea tribes had the brains to besiege and attack the reinforcement. Moreover, he clearly saw the shadow of Chairman Mao in some of the tactics of the sea tribes during this period, and was more certain that Queen Azura was a time traveler like him, and might even be a Chinese. What Yufei did not understand was that although the sea tribes were at a disadvantage, they did not make any changes. They were still the same as before, tacitly maintaining a stalemate with the pirates in the division. Although Yufei liked to play the construction version of Warcraft, he had also played Dota many times. In the game, if the enemy had an advantage on the separate lines, you had to gather together as soon as possible and gather strength to fight. Although the game is different from the real war, there are still similarities in this aspect. Yufei didn't believe that Queen Azura couldn't see the embarrassment of the Sea People, but the Sea People still didn't change their fighting style. No, there must be something wrong. But where is the problem? 10 days passed, and the pirates were still clearing out the Sea People. Although the Sea People were much weaker, the advantages brought by weapons and magic did exist. The accumulated losses of the Sea People over a period of time had reached half of the Battle of Shadow Island. However, even so, they still had no intention of changing their fighting style. Chapter 333 Disharmonious Voices. In 10 days, the pirates killed and injured many sea creatures with magic depth charges, and the corresponding consumption of bombs was also serious. In the previous Battle of Shadow Island, the sea creatures were inexperienced and gathered together on the seabed, so more than 5,000 bombs caused about 10,000 losses to the sea creatures. In the scattered battles for nearly a month after that, the sea creatures obviously learned from the previous lessons and paid great attention to adjusting their positions in the battles with the pirates, and the formations were also relatively loose. Therefore, more than 5,000 sea creatures were killed and injured in total, but the Shadow Island organization consumed nearly 20,000 magic depth charges. At this time, Yufei gradually saw the reason why the sea creatures or Queen Azura did not care about the damage, and fought such a scattered war of attrition with the Shadow Island organization. After all, the Shadow Island organization is just a pirate organization, without a particularly strict organization, and the subordinate relationship between the pirate groups is not clear. Things like magic depth charges and magic mines are definitely not made by small and medium-sized pirate groups. Only those pirate groups participating in the Shadow Island Council have the ability to make them. However, the cost of such magic creations is not low. Although the Parliament will not trade with the pirate groups under it in the form of sales, the raw materials for making bombs and mines, magic crystals and some magic metals, naturally cannot be borne by the pirate groups in the Parliament alone. At the beginning, the Parliament collected materials from the small and medium-sized pirate groups under it, and then distributed the magic depth charges and magic mines that had been made and stored on Shadow Island to the pirates below. At the same time, the pirate craftsmen on Shadow Island made these two weapons from the collected materials. The speed of the pirate craftsman's production is of course far behind the speed of the pirates' consumption. Although there are still a lot of storage on Shadow Island, the top leaders of Shadow Island have discovered this hidden problem. So in the recent battle, the top leaders have ordered the pirate fleets under it to use bombs and mines as sparingly as possible. But as mentioned earlier, the Shadow Island organization is only a relatively loose organization after all. The pirate top leader's idea of defeating the Sea Tribe and then establishing a country governed by pirates is still too far away for the middle and lower pirates. The middle and lower pirates see more of the immediate benefits. At the beginning, when the organization collected the materials for making magic depth charges and magic mines, everyone was very cooperative. When they received the high-end weapons that they had never seen before, they were also very excited. However, after nearly a month, a large number of materials were confiscated by the high level, and the weapons were used to fight against the Sea Tribe. In the end, the middle and lower level pirates found that they seemed to have handed over some materials that could be converted into gold coins through the pirates' own channels in vain, but they got nothing. Of course, it cannot be said that they got nothing. In the process of fighting with the Sea Tribe, the pirates occasionally captured some injured or knocked unconscious Sea Tribes, but most of them were low-level Sea Tribes. The main forces of the Sea Tribe were rarely captured, not to mention the Shark Warriors. The pirates were still very interested in the captured Sea Tribes at the beginning, because the high level told them that these Sea Tribes could be tamed and become one of the pirates. Indeed, there were quite a few low-level Sea Tribes that were tamed, which made the pirate groups that had Sea Tribes excited for a while. But later, the pirates found that the combat power of low-level sea creatures was about the same as that of stronger pirates, except that they were more flexible in the water. At most, they could be used to investigate the situation on the seabed and discover the sea creatures or sea beasts attacking from the seabed earlier than liquid perspective. The main forces of the sea creatures, such as tuna people and barracuda people, were very difficult to tame. Speaking of which, the pirates were still very interested in these sea creatures because they were much better than the water ghosts among the pirates in terms of strength and technology. Water ghost is another name for the part of pirates in a pirate group who dive into the water to drill through the bottom of the enemy ship or even touch the enemy ship to destroy it. Tuna people and barracuda people, because of their race and size advantages, can do these things much easier than human water ghosts. You should know that when the sea creatures first appeared in this sea area, the ships that were attacked were often sunk by tuna people. If the pirates had not had magicians using liquid perspective to observe, and magic depth charges and magic mines to prevent the sea creatures from approaching and causing damage, they would have been helpless against the sea creatures' method of cutting off the source of the trouble. But the problem is that until a month later, except for the intermediate sea creatures that Ufei had hypnotized, none of the other captured intermediate sea creatures had been successfully tamed. Some pirates did suggest that animal trainers might be able to tame these sea creatures more easily, but animal trainers are rare in the Slays continent, and there is no one among the pirates, so naturally there is nothing they can do about these captured intermediate sea creatures. After paying a lot of magic crystals and magic materials, they got a few low-level sea creatures that could only be used as scouts in the sea. Some dissatisfaction gradually emerged among the middle and lower pirates. The top leaders of the Shadow Island organization had no way to deal with this phenomenon. After all, they established long-term goals, while the middle and lower pirates were more concerned about their own interests. Moreover, the parliament was also very distressed about the difficulty of taming the intermediate sea creatures. Finally, everyone thought that the opinions on this aspect were first raised by the fourth speaker Yorick, and only the intermediate sea creatures captured in Yorick's first operation were successfully tamed, so they pushed the problem to Yorick again. Ufei saw that this was not going to work. The pirates did not work hard, and even the middle and lower level pirates had a tendency to strike. In this way, how could he weaken the strength of the sea creatures and finally conquer the sea creatures and the Naga tribe as planned in the script? So he had to propose a solution to the parliament. Although the profession of pirates is not so glamorous, for various reasons, there are still some magicians among pirates, although relatively few. The method proposed by Ufei is to let the pirate magicians sign the intermediate sea creatures as their magic partners, to achieve the purpose of utilizing the abilities of these intermediate sea creatures. This method is still somewhat useful. The number of magicians among pirates is much more than the captured intermediate sea creatures. After all, it is all the pirates in the northern and eastern waters of Slays. After taming the intermediate sea creatures in this way, the complaints of the middle and lower level pirates were much less. Chapter 334 Shark Number 1. Although Ufei temporarily solved the problem of the difficulty of taming the intermediate sea creatures for the Shadow Island organization, it was only a temporary solution. It is easy to guess that there are only a few magicians among the pirates, and the majority are black iron and bronze magicians. These low-level magicians are unable to turn the intermediate sea creatures into their magic partners. What the pirates hope for is not to tame a few intermediate sea creatures through a few magicians, but to incorporate a large number of intermediate sea creatures into the combat power of the pirate group, thereby improving the overall strength of the pirate group and even the entire Shadow Island organization. Although Ufei's method can solve the urgent problem now, when the magicians who can transform the intermediate sea creatures into magic partners among the pirates are used up, the previous problem will arise again. Of course, Ufei doesn't care about this. His ultimate goal is to bring the Shadow Island organization and the Sea Naga tribe under his command. At that time, the pirates will no longer need to tame the sea creatures, because they are originally one family. Therefore, Ufei can only propose a stopgap plan to the Shadow Island organization. If the Shadow Island organization really asked Vice Captain Gangplank of the Anchor Pirates, that is, Ufei, to help tame the sea creatures as the Shadow Island organization proposed to Yorick, he would be annoyed to death. You know, Ufei is the most afraid of trouble. However, the problem that Ufei noticed was not just the one that he had temporarily solved. The problem he found can be said to be the Achilles heel of the Shadow Island organization's grand plan to build a nation. Of course, this Achilles heel was caused by the cooperation of the sea creatures in scattered battles. After all, the job of pirates is to rob merchant ships or collect protection fees and tolls. It can be said that the full-time pirates of the Shadow Island organization are itchy if they don't rob a merchant ship in a week, and many professional pirates who have been passed down from their ancestors don't know how to live if they don't become pirates. In the past month, all the pirates have gathered to fight against the sea creatures, but they have abandoned their own jobs. In this month, each pirate group has no income except for a few low-level sea creatures that have been tamed. And what the pirates value is often the benefits that can be put in front of them, such as gold coins. This caused the Shadow Island organization's top leaders to gather strength and sacrifice the economy to fight the Sea Clan, which was at odds with the fundamental concepts of the middle and lower level pirates. Previously, it was the Shadow Island Council that was suppressing them, and the Sea Clan did affect the pirates' work, so they could gather so quickly. Now that some time has passed, the pirates have lost their work and have no major advantages in the battle with the Sea Clan for a while. The emergence of discordant voices is inevitable. Fortunately, the top leaders of the Shadow Island organization, that is, the leaders of the pirate groups who participated in the Shadow Island Council, are relatively determined, which is why the war between the Shadow Island organization and the Sea Clan continues. You can conclude that the Sea Clan's cooperation with the pirates in a scattered war of attrition is definitely the strategy of Queen Azura. The Sea Clan originally came to invade the Ethraz continent, and fighting the pirates in the outer waters of the Ethraz continent first is also a serious matter. But relatively speaking, the pirates' main job is not war, but looting. Now they are in a posture of defending Ethraz, which can be regarded as not doing their job. Queen Azura must have seen that the pirates definitely did not have such noble sentiments and were willing to keep resisting the sea tribe for the Esla's continent. But she probably didn't expect that under Yufei's instructions and Yorik's instigation, the top leaders of Shadow Island had the ambition to defeat the sea tribe and establish a country dominated by pirates. Therefore, for a full month, the pirates did not show any signs of decline, causing the sea tribe to suffer considerable losses after the Battle of Shadow Island. At this point, I'm afraid the sea tribe is also holding on, right? Yufei has seen the number of sea tribes in the sea basin, where the Naga tribe is stationed. Now the sea tribe there should have been reduced by about 3/8. Perhaps, now is the opportunity to contact the Naga tribe again. Yufei touched his smooth chin and pondered. Do it as soon as you think of it. Since crossing to Esla's, Yufei's procrastination has rarely occurred again. Release a shark warrior under control. Yufei commanded it to swim towards the basin, where the sea tribe and the Naga tribe are located. Anyway, the Anchor pirates captured 3 shark warriors in the previous battle of Shadow Island. Even if this one was killed by the Naga tribe without any reason, there were still 2 spare ones. When the situation became more tense, and they communicated with the Naga tribe again, there would still be sharks available. Yufei was too lazy to read the memories of the 3 shark warriors. After all, it was quite mentally demanding, and Yufei was afraid that he would suffer from schizophrenia if he read too many memories. For this reason, he did not know the names of the 3 shark warriors he controlled, so he simply called them Shark 1, 2, and 3. Under Yufei's control, Shark 1 dived into the depths of the ocean and swam towards the east. Along the way, Shark 1 had to be careful to avoid the pirate fleet patrolling on the sea. Otherwise, if he was discovered by Liquid Perspective, it was very likely that several magic depth charges would fall. Finally, 2 hours later, Shark 1 arrived at the sea basin where the sea tribe lived. Speaking of this sea tribe settlement, Yufei had to admire the sea tribe's ability to hide. Although the speed of the pirate ship is not as fast as that of the sea tribe, Shadow Island is only 2 days sailing away from this sea basin. Although this is the time required for the pirates to move at full speed in one direction without sleep, this sea basin is also within the cruising range of the Eastern Theater pirate fleet. However, even within this cruising range, the pirates did not find this sea basin. The sea tribes are everywhere, engaging in large and small encounters with the pirate fleet in various places, attracting the attention of the pirates, but ignoring this sea area, where there has been no war. Sharkman number 1 swam around the periphery of the sea basin, but did not swim into the sea basin. Yufei was a little hesitant. He didn't know how big the spiritual field of the Tide Temple was. If he was discovered by the Lali Queen through the spiritual field of the Tide Temple, as soon as he stepped into the sea basin, and then sent Naga soldiers to kill him directly, it would not serve the purpose of communication. Although Forrest Gump successfully sneaked into the sea basin last time, and was discovered after a while, but Yufei didn't think that the sea tribe would be so relaxed when they were in full-scale war with the pirates. The sea creatures are now gradually discovering that some of their companions have become traitors after being captured. I'm afraid Sharkman number 1 has long been included in the list of prisoners. If he appeared in front of the sea creatures, he would probably be immediately killed as a traitor. Chapter 335, The King of Heaven and the Tiger of Earth. Sharkman number 1 wandered back and forth outside the basin for more than an hour. Yufei finally made up his mind and decided to let Sharkman number 1 venture into the basin. At most, he would surrender when he saw the fierce and evil spirits coming to catch the traitor. Anyway, Yufei's purpose was just to see the Lali Queen and communicate with her. When Sharkman number 1 gradually went deeper into the basin where the sea tribe lived under Yufei's command, Yufei's spiritual power scattered around it suddenly felt like entering the water from the shore. He immediately understood that this was entering the spiritual field formed by the tidal temple. Yufei simply stopped Sharkman number 1 and waited for the Naga to come to catch it. Not long after, many Naga soldiers appeared in front of Sharkman number 1. But, this posture seems a little wrong! Exclamation mark. Yufei looked at the mugger predators in front of Sharkman number 1, which were lined up in 2 rows and formed a road on the seabed, and was stunned. This doesn't look like a formation to capture traitors, but it seems to be welcoming VIPs. Just when Yufei was puzzled, 2 Naga thugs and a leading Naga siren slowly swam over from the path formed by the Mughal predators. The Naga siren was obviously the representative of the Naga tribe welcoming Sharkman number 1. She walked directly in front of Sharkman number 1 and bent down slightly. "Dear guest, the queen is waiting for your visit. Please follow me." After saying that, without a moment's pause, the Naga siren, with a cold face as always, turned around and walked back from the path, surrounded by the Mughal predators with 2 Naga thugs without saying a word, leaving Sharkman number 1 controlled by Yufei stunned there. What the hell is going on? Yufei was quite surprised that Sharkman number 1 was not killed directly, and he didn't expect that he would become an honorable guest. But, is it your attitude to treat an honorable guest to go back before the guest is invited in such a cold way? Yufei couldn't help but complain about the Naga siren in his heart. However, although he thought a lot in his heart, his actions did not slow down. Yufei quickly asked Sharkman number 1 to follow the Naga siren from that road to the depths of the sea basin. Soon, Sharkman number 1 arrived at the place where the Naga tribe lived in the center of the sea basin. The last time he controlled Agan, Yufei only observed the Naga tribe's residence from a distance, but this time Sharkman number 1 entered this mysterious place. Yufei felt that, since he had become an honored guest, there was no need to carefully gather his mental power, so he dispersed the mental power hidden in Sharkman no 1's body, and observed the Naga tribe's residence carefully. Naturally, he immediately found many familiar buildings, coral reefs, spawning grounds, Queen Azura's temple, and of course, the most conspicuous tidal temple. Speaking of which, Yufei still envied the Naga tribe's architectural system. Their main board tidal temple itself is a barracks. In addition to training Mugger slaves equivalent to elves, it can also train Mugger tribe's combat arms. According to Yufei's observation and inference, this Naga tribe has also changed a lot compared to the game. For example, in the game, the tidal temple cannot train Mughal ocean blood witches and Mughal ocean hunters, which are not low-level arms. Moreover, unlike the spawning ground and Queen Azura temple, the number of tidal temples is very small. This is the same limitation as Yufei's main body, the Tree of Life, the main board of the Night Elves, which is difficult to build more. At least, in this Naga settlement, Yufei only saw 1 tidal temple. So the question is, how can a mere tidal temple train thousands of Mughal soldiers? You know, the speed of training archers in the Night Elves War Ancient Tree is still 2 hours, and the training time of Mughal arms will definitely not be much shorter than that of bows and arrows. If the Tidal Temple can only train arms one by one, Yufei calculated that it would take 20,000 hours to train 10,000 Mughal arms. This is more than 2 years, not counting the time for training the necessary Mughal slaves. So, this Tidal Temple must have been mutated. Yufei looked at the unusually tall Tidal Temple and thought silently in his heart. Before he could take a closer look at the other situations of the Naga tribe, Sharkman number 1 had already been brought to the Tidal Temple. At this time, the gate of the Tidal Temple was opened, and the Naga Siren did not hesitate, and led Sharkman number 1 directly into the Tidal Temple. In the main hall of the temple, a coral bed was placed at the top. Yufei clearly remembered that this was the car of Queen Ashura. Sure enough, the petite half-lying figure on the coral bed was the leader of the Naga tribe, Queen Ashura, with a lolly appearance. As if she had noticed the arrival of Sharkman number 1, Queen Ashura, who was half lying on the coral bed to rest, sat up and looked at Sharkman number 1, who had just entered the Tidal Temple. Yufei only felt that Queen Ashura's eyes seemed to see himself thousands of kilometers away, and the depth was completely inconsistent with her lolly appearance. For a moment, he actually felt a sense of being shocked. After a long while, Yufei finally came back to his senses. Wow. This god was actually shocked by the eyes of a little girl. Is this a joke? He felt that he, the father god of the Night Elves, had been humiliated, and immediately began to fight back. The eyes of Sharkman number 1 suddenly became empty, and then both eyeballs disappeared, leaving only 2 eyes that were creepy and full of white. This was the external manifestation of Yufei completely suppressing the autonomous consciousness of Sharkman number 1 and transmitting huge mental power to Sharkman number 1. In any case, Yufei can be regarded as a master of mental power, and the mental power of his original body, the ancient tree, can be said to be far superior to that of the Tidal Temple. He quickly recovered from the state of being suppressed by Queen Ashura using the mental field of the Tidal Temple. At this time, Yufei controlled Sharkman number 1 to bow without any reluctance, and said the first sentence to the fellow villager in front of him. The King of Heaven and the Tiger of Earth. Instantly, the atmosphere in the Tidal Temple froze, and the eyes of Queen Ashura on the coral bed suddenly recovered from that extremely deep state, but her eyes revealed a look of disbelief. Yufei controlled Sharknado number 1, and no longer made any movement to speak, but just stared at Queen Ashura, expecting her answer. It took a full half minute before Yufei heard Queen Ashura's strange answer. Pagoda to suppress the river monster? Belated Merry Christmas. Hanchan's mobile phone was stolen on the street last night, and I was in a bad mood. Everyone, be careful when going out. Thieves are getting more and more tricks now. Chapter 336 First Contact. No one could understand the shock in Queen Ashura's heart. Although Yufei was surprised that there were other travelers who came to Esraz besides himself, he had been mentally prepared before. Otherwise he would not have asked the question of the King of Heaven and the Tiger of Earth. Since he found other Warcraft monsters that came to Esraz in the Wind Whispering Forest, he thought that he might not be the only traveler who came to Esraz. It's just that he imagined that there might be travelers who came as the masters of the other 3 races in Warcraft, but he didn't expect to meet the Naga. Speaking of which, Yufei also secretly investigated the information about other races in Warcraft on the continent of Esraz, but he didn't find anything in the end. In the end, he came to the conclusion that no other races came to the continent of Esraz. Otherwise, as long as the 2 races like the human race and the beast race developed, they would definitely be discovered by him. But even if he didn't find it, Yufei had an expectation of other travelers. After all, he was an old bookworm who had read online articles for many years. But it was different with Queen Ashura. Since she traveled to the world of Esraz, she has been staying in the deep sea. During the primitive accumulation period of the Naga tribe, she accepted the fact of traveling through time, but she never thought that she would have contact with the affairs of the earth. After accidentally learning that the core of the world she traveled through was in the Esraz continent, she took the accumulated Naga troops and the conquered Sea tribe troops and migrated all the way, hoping to get in touch with the land civilization. After all, the civilization of the Sea tribe is still too primitive, which makes Queen Ashura, who traveled from a higher civilization, very uncomfortable. However, what she never expected was that after approaching the S-Res continent, someone actually said such a classic 5 words to her. For a time, Queen Azura's heart was surging. What happened next was more logical. People say that when you meet someone from the same city in another city, someone from another province in another province, or someone from a foreign country in another country, the relationship will immediately become much closer. Now in another world, 2 people who have also traveled from the earth naturally have a common language. Yufei had previously seen from the tactics of the sea tribes that Queen Azura was likely to be Chinese, and the 2 lines of dialogue about the tiger pagoda suppressing the river monster prove this point. Foreign friends generally don't know these 2 sentences. Queen Azura did not dismiss the people around. There was no one else in the tidal temple. Except for her and Sharkman number 1 controlled by Yufei, they were all Naga units, so there was no need to worry about the conversation being overheard by others. During the exchange, Yufei and Queen Azura confirmed each other's identity as Chinese and exchanged their real names. Yufei then learned that this loli queen had a very nice name, Tangyajia. However, apart from exchanging names for the convenience of calling, the 2 people tacitly did not mention their respective identities on Earth. However, from the conversation, Yufei could roughly judge that Tangyajia's age was probably really consistent with her appearance, younger than himself. This made Yufei's heart a little agitated. This was a real loli, and it was a fellow countryman. Well, whether to seduce or not, this was a question. Although Tangyajia is not very old, from the logic of her conversation and the tactics she used to command the sea tribe, it can be seen that she is a girl with a relatively mature heart. Yufei also learned from her why she did not shout and kill the Sharkman number 1 controlled by Yufei. The last time the Shark Warrior Agan controlled by Yufei was exposed, Tangyajia felt something was wrong. The information fed back from the tidal temple made Tangyajia very puzzled. Although the tidal temple is not a living thing like the tree of life, it is also a main board of a tribe, so it naturally has some special features. The abnormality of Agan was discovered by the perception system of the tidal temple. Just like Yufei's body, the tidal temple can also detect almost all the surrounding situations. Yufei did not know how to converge at that time, and kept spreading his mental power around Agan, so it was naturally easily detected by the spiritual place of the tidal temple. All this happened after Agan came to the outside of the Naga tribe's residence, and the tidal temple fed back the discovery to Tangyajia at that time. Tangyajia was a little angry about the loss of more than 300 sea tribesmen at that time, and he had to do something to boost morale before going into battle, so he directly killed the betraying Agan as a sacrifice. Because unlike Yufei, who was directly the main board, Tangyajia and the tidal temple were not one, and there was a layer between them. So when Tangyajia felt from the tidal temple that the mental power controlling Agan had some common aura, Agan had been kneeling for a long time and could not contact Yufei. Yufei could understand that the mental power and the tidal temple had some common aura. This was naturally not because Yufei and Tangyajia were both time travelers, but because Yufei's main body and the tidal temple were both the main boards of the same race from the Warcraft game. Moreover, in the background story of Warcraft, the Naga and the Night Elves can be regarded as different branches of the same race, so of course there would be a common aura. Later, the Sea Tribe suffered a great loss in the Shadow Island, and then they went into full-scale war with the pirates. Tangyajia had no time to consider the mysterious mentalist, that is, Yufei. She originally thought that she could get in touch with Yufei in the battle with the pirates, but she didn't expect that Yufei chose to hide behind the scenes and didn't get what she wanted. So after Shark number 1 controlled by Yufei entered the spiritual field of the tidal temple, Tangyajia immediately reacted and sent the Naga troops to pick it up. Unexpectedly, the one who took it over was Yufei, a fellow villager, which was really an unexpected surprise. Yufei, who originally came with the idea of conquering the Naga tribe, is a little embarrassed now. He was just a young man of 18 or 19 years old, and when he met a lowly fellow villager, he gave up the idea of suppressing her by force. In his heart, he also found a reason for himself. Didn't they all shout during the War of Resistance? And didn't the puppet army shout that the Chinese don't fight the Chinese? Am I not as conscious as the puppet army? Of course, Yufei would never admit that he gave up the idea of making the Naga tribe submit to him because he was obsessed with Lalita and didn't want to leave a bad impression on Tangyajia. Although Yufei and Tangyajia had concealed their true identities on Earth because they had just met, they both informed each other about their respective developments and essays. Chapter 337 The Development of the Naga Tribe. Although Yufei did not reveal the strength of the Night Elves in detail for a while, he also informed Tangyajia of the existence of the Night Empire. Upon learning that Yufei had actually established an empire on the Eslays continent, Tangyajia's eyes were full of stars. Of course, these stars were not stars of admiration. Although Yufei's elf king clone was a pretty boy, the one who appeared in front of Tangyajia was just Sharkman number 1 controlled by him. I believe that with the aesthetics of Earthlings, no one would admire a half shark, half human monster. Tangyajia was just stunned by the information that Yufei had actually established an empire. After all, the sea tribe attacked many merchant ships after coming to the coast of Eslay's continent. Although they did not get more in-depth information, they also knew what an empire meant in Eslay's continent. In comparison, when Tangyajia talked about his own experience, he felt a little inferior to Yufei. At the beginning of Tangyajia's journey, like Yufei, he had some initial resources and a moth-aboard tidal temple. However, unlike Yufei, she was a humanoid with some Naga characteristics from the beginning, and she did not become one with the tidal temple. Then, in less than half a day, Tangyajia accepted the fact of time travel and began the primitive accumulation similar to Yufei's process. Yufei was a little shocked when he heard this. It took him a day to recover from the chaotic emotions at that time. This girl who was younger than him didn't care about time travel in less than half a day. Isn't she too thick-skinned? Although he couldn't accept the fact that he turned from a human into a tree at that time, he had been tested by time travel novels for a long time, but he was not as good as a little lolly. Isn't this really incredible? Under Yufei's repeated questioning, Tangyajia was a little embarrassed to reveal that, although she had just graduated from junior high school before she traveled through time, she was already a part-time online writer. In addition to serializing novels on Dianyangv, she had also written articles on Jinjiang, Hongxiu and other websites. Immediately, Yufei's eyes changed, and the Elf King's clone, who was still far away on Shadow Island, had a very strange look on his face. Oh my god. It's okay to have some sissy videos, but Jinjiang and Hongxiu are all places where rotten girls gather. Has the rotten culture already infected all junior high school students? Well, Tangyajia should be considered a high school student now. Let's get back to the point. After accepting the fact of time travel, Tangyajia controlled the Naga tribe and began the initial development. It seemed to be a benefit for novices. Not far from the tidal temple, there was an underwater magic crystal mine, which was also the only magic crystal mine Tangyajia found for a long time afterwards. With the large amount of energy provided by this magic crystal mine, Tangyajia built a lot of coral reefs. Because the first level military training base of the Naga tribe was originally the tidal temple, Tangyajia had more energy to accumulate military units. After the initial magic crystal mine was mined, the Naga tribe, who only needed to build enough coral reefs to train military units, already had a large number of Mugger military units. When he heard this, Yufei, who had been worried about not having enough energy to build buildings in the initial stage, was jealous. Afterwards, the development of the Naga tribe fell into a bottleneck, because after the mining of the magic crystal mine was completed, Tangyajia had not been able to find a new way to provide energy around. However, in the process of exploring the surrounding areas to find new energy sources, the Naga tribe met the sea tribe. The contact process between the Naga tribe and the native sea tribe was naturally not friendly, but because of the large number of Mugger soldiers, the Naga tribe could win when fighting against those not so strong indigenous sea tribes. But even after exploring a long distance and defeating many sea tribes, Tangyajia still failed to find new magic crystal mines. And with the continuous battles with the sea tribes, the Naga troops also suffered a considerable number of casualties. Such a battle with only losses and no income made Tangyajia very distressed and even gave up continuing to explore outside. It was not until an accidental incident that Tangyagia discovered an ability of the tidal temple that he was freed from this embarrassing situation. The tidal temple is called the temple and has the ability to sacrifice. The bodies of the sea tribe killed by the Naga tribe can be sacrificed in the tidal temple and exchanged for energy and even arms. After discovering this secret, the Naga tribe ushered in a period of great development. The sea area where Tangyagia arrived soon became a bloody storm. Countless sea tribes welcomed the Naga tribe's troops. After being slaughtered, they were exchanged for new Naga tribe arms and continued to fight. Of course, the sea tribe did not sit still and wait for death. After the Naga tribe had been wreaking havoc for a while, the sea tribes that still existed in the sea area where Tangyagia arrived united and fought a decisive battle with the Naga tribe. However, the Naga tribe was already strong at this time. Tangyagia even used a large amount of energy obtained from sacrifices to open the tidal temple's authority to train Mugilocian blood witches and Mugilocian hunters, which expanded the strength of the Naga tribe to a limit at that time. The united sea tribes were still a mess in front of the Naga tribe. In addition, those sea tribes had lived in the sea for a long time and had simple minds. They did not understand tactics at all and were quickly defeated by the Naga troops commanded by Tangyagia. Some Tihids were killed and sacrificed in the tidal temple, while the rest of the sea tribe chose to surrender. Tangyagia calculated that the surrendered sea tribes were also strong. If they were killed and sacrificed, the Naga troops obtained might not be as strong as those of the sea tribes, so he accepted the surrendered sea tribes. Since then, the sea area where Tangyagia landed was integrated into one by her. The sea tribes were either killed and sacrificed by the Naga tribe or became vassals of the Naga tribe. With the large amount of energy obtained from the sacrifice of the sea tribes killed in the entire sea area, Tangyagia upgraded the tidal temple to the second level and then continued to develop for a period of time. This period of time was considered a leap forward for the Naga tribe. Not only did they create the spawning ground in the temple of Queen Azura, which enabled the Naga tribe to train new and powerful arms, even Tangyagia himself was transformed into a hero unit through the newly built Abyss altar. However, at this time, the sea area where Tangyagia landed had no way to provide energy. In order to develop further, the Naga tribe had no choice but to migrate. According to the information provided by the tidal temple, the Naga tribe surrounded and killed a level 9 sea monster for sacrifice, obtained the authority to build a new tidal temple, and then found a direction to migrate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338, The Development of the Naga Tribe. The original tidal temple and Naga buildings could only be left in place because they could not be moved. After leaving a part of the Naga troops as guards to maintain the function of the Naga buildings, Tangyagia gathered all the vassal sea tribes and most of the Naga troops and entered the Hormuz Basin. In the Hormuz Basin, Tangyagia absorbed the experience of fighting in the Advent Sea and did not attack every sea tribe with great momentum. Relying on the population advantages of various types of vassal sea tribes, the Naga tribe quietly conquered many sea tribes in various locations in the Hormuz Basin. After that, the Naga tribe officially appeared in the Hormuz Basin, directly wiped out the most powerful shark tribe in the center of the basin, and declared its rule over the Hormuz Basin. Because the Naga tribe had already conquered some sea tribes in advance and divided the entire basin into pieces, there was no situation where the remaining sea tribes united, like in the Advent Sea. The separated sea tribes naturally had no power to resist the Naga tribe and its vassal sea tribes, and soon the Hormuz Basin was controlled by the Naga tribe. There are several magic crystal mines in the Hormuz Basin, so Tangyagia built the second tidal temple there. In a bay tribe on the edge of the Hormuz Basin, Tangyagia learned about the existence of the Slays continent and decided to head towards the Slays continent. Next, under the hard work of a large number of Naga slaves, in less than a month, several magic crystal mines in the Hormuz Basin were mined out and converted into energy. In this way, after the number of vassal sea tribes received increased significantly, the number of Naga tribes' own arms also increased greatly. and this time, the new troops trained by the Naga tribe are mainly second level arms such as flying dragons, Naga thugs, and Naga sirens. After the Naga tribe had mined all the energy that could be found in the Hormuz Basin, Tanya shifted her target to the Esraz continent. For some reason, the resources in the sea should be richer than those on land, but this is not the case in the Esraz world. For example, Yufei discovered several magic crystal mines and a large number of gold mines in the Wind Whispering Forest, where he landed, while the Naga tribe worked hard to migrate once but still failed to find many energy mines. If it were not for the fact that they could exchange energy and even arms for the enemy's corpses in the tidal temple, the development of the Naga tribe would have become very difficult. Starting from the Hormuz Basin and continuing westward, Tanya finally found traces of people. She couldn't describe the emotion she felt when she first discovered the ship. With excitement, relief and longing, the merchant ship was sunk by the sea tribe under the command of Tanya. However, although the ship was sunk, the people on the ship were not killed. It was the first time that Tanya saw the native residents of Esraz, so naturally she would not kill or sacrifice them directly. After sinking the ship, the crew members on the ship were placed on a deserted island by Tanya. It was through these crew members that she roughly understood the basic situation of the Esraz continent. It was just that those crew members had been at sea for a long time and were citizens of a remote coastal country, so they knew very little about the details of the inland. For example, the rise of the Night Elves and the establishment of the Dark Knight Empire were not known to those crew members. Otherwise, Tanya would have more than one guess as a traverser, and she also had a general understanding of the game of Warcraft. After getting some information from the crew members on the first ship, attacked by the Sea Tribe, Tanya chose to establish a new Naga base in this sea area that was already close to the Esraz continent. During the battle in the Hormuz Basin, the Naga tribe had killed more than one level 9 sea monster and sacrificed in the Tide Temple to obtain the authority to build a new Tide Temple, and soon established a new base in the basin, discovered by Yufei. After the base was built, it was natural to search for energy collection points. It was during the search for magic crystal mines that the sea tribes, divided into teams, often attacked those ships, which exposed the existence of the sea tribes. The order to attack the ships was naturally issued by Tanya. In addition to wanting to learn more about the situation on the Esraz continent, Tanya's main purpose was the magic crystals and other materials loaded on the merchant ships. Then the Shadow Island organization began to look for the sea tribes to fight in order to maintain the safety of the sea route, so that the merchant ships could sail smoothly, which also meant that the pirates could collect protection fees smoothly. In fact, sometimes it is like this. In order to protect their own interests, the enemies on the opposite side will have to do things that are beneficial to you. Yufei participated in the subsequent things, and Tanya stopped his narration. However, at Yufei's strong request, Tanya revealed the current strength of the Naga tribe. After fighting with the Shadow Island organization for a month, the vassal sea tribes in the new base have lost nearly half, and the number of sea tribe troops participating is only more than 20,000. However, this part of the sea tribe is the elite soldiers who have survived the great waves, most of whom are the main arms such as tuna people. The Shark Army, except for the failed attack on Shadow Island, did not suffer much loss. In other words, except for the heavy damage in the attack on Shadow Island, the weakening of the Sea Clan in the following month of fighting was not as much as imagined. Yufei himself also saw this. In the month of fighting with the Sea Clan, the pirates killed and captured most of the low-level Sea Clan. It seemed that they had the upper hand and caused the Sea Clan to lose more than 5,000 combat power, but in fact, they did not hurt the Sea Clan at all. In addition to the vassal Sea Clan, which still had more than 20,000 elite soldiers, the Naga tribe itself had more than 10,000 troops. Of course, most of them were Mugger soldiers. Although in terms of strength, the largest number of Mugger plunderers were still a step behind the main Sea Clan soldiers such as Tuna people, but with the cooperation of Mugger Ocean Blood Witch and Mugger Ocean Hunter, the nearly 10,000 Mugger troops were much stronger than the main Sea Clan troops of the same number. In addition, in this third base, the Naga tribe also gathered more than 1,000 Naga thugs, or 1,000 flying dragons and more than 500 Naga sirens. The power of the Naga tribe was already enough to catch Yufei's eye, but it seemed to be lacking in high-end power. Chapter 339 Comparison between the two tribes. When Yufei asked about the high-end combat power of the Naga tribe, Tang Yejia hesitated for a while, and finally told Yufei, the current Naga tribe does have the problem of insufficient high-end combat power. Unlike the Night Elves, although the Naga tribe can build the Abyss Altar, it was built when the Tidal Temple was upgraded to the second level, and the Abyss Altar can only summon one hero when the Tidal Temple is at the second level. This only summoning quota was used by Tang Yejia to transform herself into a hero attribute, and her profession is the Queen of the Sea. Because there is no way to summon a hero, the strongest Naga tribe, except Tang Yejia herself, is the Naga Thugs and the Naga Siren. But the strength of these two heads of soldiers is limited by their own military identity, and until now they have only barely exceeded the 8th level. Of course, the Naga tribe itself does not have much high-end combat power, but it does not mean that Tang Yejia does not have high-end combat power under his command. Just like the racial characteristics of the Night Elves who have a strong affinity for beasts and plants, the Naga tribe also has an affinity for sea creatures. It is precisely because of this talent that Tang Yejia can obtain a large number of sea warriors as vassals through simple means of kindness and force. At the same time, relying on the enhanced racial characteristics, after transforming into the Queen of the Sea, as well as special skills, Tang Yejia also subdued some powerful sea creatures to make up for the lack of high-end combat power of the Naga tribe. For example, Yufei had only heard of the giant whale warriors and deep sea giant seals before, but had never seen them. The giant whale warrior has a powerful strength of level 9, and its physical strength is very strong. Although the deep sea giant seal is not as good as the giant whale warrior, the role it can play in team battles is extremely powerful. However, Tang Yejia kept a secret about the number of giant whale warriors and deep sea giant seals that the Naga tribe now has, and did not tell Yufei clearly. Yufei did not care about this, and he concealed more things from Tang Yejia. Although there is a relationship between the two of them as fellow villagers, it does not mean that the two of them can open their hearts just after they met. After roughly understanding all, or most of the potential strength of the Naga tribe, Yufei paid more attention to it. The more than 20,000 vassal sea tribes and more than 10,000 Naga troops mentioned earlier are actually only the Naga forces in this area, called the Skan Sea Basin. And this place is already the third main base of the Naga tribe. The first base of the Naga tribe is the sea area where Tang Yejia landed. Although it has developed very well, after exploring all the resources in the sea area, it is limited by the fact that there are no sea tribe enemies who can provide corpses to convert into energy, and Tang Yejia has half abandoned it. Now there is only a large coral reef that provides a population limit for the Naga tribe and some buildings for training troops. The troops left there are only a few Naga troops. Of course, like the Night Elves, the converted energy is universal in the entire Naga territory. In other words, as long as Tang Yejia gives an order, the first base can start training a large number of Naga troops at any time to quickly improve their strength. It can be said that the first base of the Naga tribe, like the Tree of Life that Yufei deliberately built in the depths of the Warcraft mountains, exists as the last seed. The second territory of the Naga tribe, that is, the base established in the Hormuz Basin, is equivalent to the Wind Whispering Forest of the Night Elves, hiding most of the strength of the tribe. In the Hormuz Basin, the vassal sea tribes under the Naga tribe are not much more than those in the Skan Basin, because most of the sea tribes in the Skan Basin were brought by Tang Yejia from the Hormuz Basin. However, the Naga troops stockpiled in the Hormuz Basin are more than 30,000. Although most of the more than 30,000 Naga troops are still Naga troops, they are also an extremely powerful force. This is the same reason why the Night Elves troops are strong at that time, although the average strength of the Night Elves troops attacking the Kingdom of Seven was much stronger than that of ordinary troops. The entire Kingdom of Seven was not without the same number of masters. However, the Night Elf troops with the same skills, attributes, equipment, and discipline can easily defeat enemies with twice the average strength. The Naga troops are of the same nature as the Night Elves. And, like the Night Elves, the Naga are still trying their best to train soldiers in the Hormuz Basin. Although the direction of the Esra's continent was chosen as the main exploration direction, the Naga are also extending their territory in other directions with the Hormuz Basin as the starting point. After all, for the Naga, the more sea tribes they explore, the more they can improve their own strength. Needless to say, the sea tribes willing to become vassals can also be sacrificed in the tidal temple after being killed and converted into energy or arms. It can be said that the strength of the Naga is increasing every moment. Of course, Ufeni doesn't care about this. Compared with the Night Elves, the development of the Naga is still a lot behind. Although the territory under the sea is huge, it is not like the Esra's continent where powerful forces are everywhere, but there are very few energy sources. Even though the Naga tribe can obtain energy by killing the sea tribes and sea monsters that are unwilling to surrender, this is also a relatively slow and troublesome method. In comparison, the energy that the Night Elves now obtain every day by digging the magic crystal veins found in the Dark Knight Empire and the Warcraft mountains is probably much more than that of the Naga tribe. What's more, under Ufeni's operation, the Night Elves have secretly opened a gap in the human world and quickly absorbed the nutrients of the human world to strengthen themselves. Every ship of magic crystals transported to the northern ice field by sea will increase the strength of the Night Elves. Now, the number of Night Elf troops in the Dark Knight Empire alone has exceeded 30,000. This is almost the same as the number of troops in the second base of the Naga tribe. You know, the Dark Knight Empire is just like the Skarn Sea Basin of the Naga tribe for the Night Elves, and it is a bridgehead. In the Wind Whispering Forest, the hidden strength of the Night Elves is only known by the Night Elves themselves. The general view of the various forces on the continent on the Night Elves is that the Night Elves have invested most of their strength in the Dark Knight Empire. After all, the impression left by the Night Elves and Slays is actually just the Ancient Elves and the Dark Knight tribe. Chapter 340 I'm sorry, I fucked you. When I set the scheduled release, I had a brain error and treated December as 30 days, so there was no automatic update today. I just discovered it equals I'm really sorry to those friends who are waiting for the update. Let's just consider that Hongchen has adjusted the update today. From tomorrow on, there will be 2 updates a day, the first chapter at 8 AM and the second chapter at 5 PM. They will be released on schedule, so stay tuned. Also, I wish you all a happy new year in advance and all the best. Chapter 341, Plan to control the organization. But no outsider knows that in the Whispering Wind Forest, around Ufeni's Tree of Life clone, there stand countless ancient trees of war, ancient trees of wind, and ancient trees of knowledge. Relying on the ever-increasing energy from various channels, these ancient trees for training soldiers never stop for a moment, and they keep training Night Elf soldiers. Every moment, the number of Night Elves is increasing. When Ufeni feels that the strength of the Night Elves is enough to take over the human world with relatively small losses, countless Night Elves in the Whispering Wind Forest will rush out to unify Slays for him. With such confidence, although Ufeni is surprised by the strength of the Naga tribe, he doesn't care. Even if the Naga tribe is now combined with the vassal sea tribe, it is far inferior to the strength of the Night Elves themselves. What's more, the Naga tribe has the native sea tribe as a vassal, and there are more native elves in the Dark Knight Empire who are ruled by Ufeni. Of course, this does not mean that Ufeni does not value the Naga tribe. The Whispering Wind Forest and the Dark Knight Empire are located northwest of the center of the Slays continent. It takes a long distance to the north through the northern ice sheet to reach the ocean, and it is the far North Sea which is not conducive to navigation. In other words, the sphere of influence of the Night Elves is inland. This means that, if the Night Elves want to unify the Slays continent, it will take a long time to attack the countries along the eastern and southern coasts. And Ufeni has to worry about that. If he marches from the northwest to the southeast, the strength of humans will inevitably be compressed in the east and north. The advance of the Night Elves may be smoother in the early stage, but when the strength of the entire human world is used to fight the Night Elves in a relatively small territory, the war will definitely become difficult. And if the Night Elves attack the human world from west to east, and from north to south, and there is a powerful force attacking from east to west, and from south to north at the same time, the war will be much smoother. The Naga tribe is such a force that can provide assistance to the Night Elves. While listening to Tang Yijia's narration, Yufei had already silently turned many thoughts in his mind, and also made clear his attitude towards the Naga tribe. The ultimate goals mentioned above are not suitable for discussion with the Lali Queen in front of him, but establishing a cooperative relationship is a top priority. According to the current situation of the Shadow Island organization, it is estimated that the middle and lower level pirates will not be willing to give up their work and fight the Sea Tribe for another half a month. If there is no war, it will be much more troublesome to control the Shadow Island organization through the anchor pirates. And if you cooperate with the Sea Tribe to get rid of the 3 speakers above Yorick, it will be very simple to control the Shadow Island organization. Without much hesitation, Yufei directly expressed his intention to cooperate, and hoped that Tang Yijia would cooperate in what he did. I don't know what the considerations were, but to Yufei's surprise, Tang Yijia agreed to his request without much hesitation. Although I don't know what Tang Yijia thinks, Yufei is still quite happy that she is willing to cooperate with his plan. After chatting with Tang Yijia about some things on Earth, and deepening the friendship between fellow villagers, he said goodbye and left. To show his sincerity, Yufei released the spiritual power that controlled Sharkman number 1 and let it return to Tang Yijia's command. At the same time, after consulting Tang Yijia's opinion, he sealed a spiritual seed in the tidal temple. In order to avoid suspicion, this spiritual seed is completely sealed and will only be activated when Tang Yijia wants to inform Yufei of any news. And if Yufei wants to contact Tang Yijia again, there are still Sharkman number 2 and number 3. After withdrawing his spiritual power, Yufei stood up from his cross-legged state. The contact with the Naga tribe can be said to be smoother than he imagined. Not only did he roughly understand the overall strength of the Naga tribe, allowing him to improve his plan, he also reached a series of agreements with his fellow villagers to help him control the Shadow Island organization. And the Naga tribe asked for some magic crystals and the road to open the Sea Tribe to the Slays continent in exchange for their help. The next step is to completely control the Shadow Island organization. With a gleam of light in his eyes, Yufei gave Yorick an order in his mind, asking him to cooperate with the actions of the Sea Tribe. Yorick was also excited after receiving the message. In the previous high-level meeting of Shadow Island, Yorick used the great prospects of the pirate nation to lure the councillors to decide to fight against the Sea Tribe. Although Yufei proposed it through Yorick, Yorick himself may have had such thoughts. After completing Yufei's plan, he, who was originally one of the most inconspicuous among the pirates, can become the real pirate king of the entire Slays. In order to cooperate with the actions of the Sea Tribe, Yorick didn't need to do anything. He just needed to find out the cruise route of the fleet of the 3 speakers, and then notify the Sea Tribe. As the 4th speaker of the Shadow Island organization, he naturally participated in the arrangement of the cruise route, and knew which route the fleet of the 3 speakers would cruise on which day. As for the notification, it was naturally handed over to Yufei. Yufei's plan to control the Shadow Island organization is actually very simple, that is, to reveal the information of the fleet of the 3 speakers to the Sea Tribe, and then the Sea Tribe will do its best to get rid of these 3 guys whose status is still above Yorick. Then Yorick naturally became the highest ranking person in the Shadow Island organization. In addition, Yorick has won over many pirate groups and even parliament members in the past 2 months since he took office. At that time, as the only remaining speaker, he will definitely be able to temporarily lead the entire Shadow Island organization. After that, Yorick will announce the cessation of the war with the Sea Tribe, which will surely gain the support of the middle and lower level war-weary pirates. At that time, even if some people are suspicious about why only Yorick, the speaker, survived, it will not be a problem under the general trend. What's more, it is well known that the anchor pirates have a powerful magician, which can also be an excuse for Yorick to survive. Now the war weariness of the middle and lower level pirates has become more and more serious, but Yorick has mobilized the forces he has brought to suppress these voices, and not let the 3 speakers know. Occasionally, some opinions are passed on by the subordinates of the 3 speakers, but because there are not many opinions, they are not taken seriously, so there is no action. On the contrary, Yorick has now begun to contact the middle and lower level pirates frequently, either by himself or through his subordinates. While calming the pirates, He also revealed that if the fourth speaker came to power, he would definitely take care of public opinion and stop the war to do the pirates' main job. After operating like this for about 5 days, Yorick, the fourth speaker, has gradually changed from a leader who has just come to power to an image of a very good leader in the minds of the middle and lower level pirates. Next, it is time for the Sea Clan to act according to the plan and get rid of the 3 speakers. In the Shadow Island organization, the positions above the anchor pirates are, from low to high, the Warden pirates, the Widow pirates and the War pirates. Originally, Euphony hoped that the Sea Clan would win the battle and directly get rid of the 3 major pirate groups. But the 3 major pirate groups are the old forces in the Shadow Island organization after all, firmly controlling the Shadow Island. The magic depth charges and magic mines produced on the Shadow Island are naturally the most equipped for their respective fleets. If the Sea Tribe attacks the fleets of the 3 major pirate groups at the same time, there will definitely be considerable losses. Therefore, after careful consideration, Tangyajia decided to do it one by one and asked Euphony for his opinion. Euphony's suggestion was to kill the prison pirates first. This is because the prison pirates are a notoriously unsociable pirate group in the Shadow Island organization. Most of the pirates in the prison pirates are aliens rather than humans, so although they are powerful, their relationship with other pirate groups has never been very good. In addition, the leader Thresh is a dwarf with a straightforward and irritable temper, which makes the prison pirates, although one of the 3 old pirate groups, not have many supporters. In this way, getting rid of the prison pirates first will attract the attention of the other 2 speakers, but will not arouse too much reaction. Chapter 342, Prison Warden Pirates. The sky was clear, and the red sun in the east had just risen halfway, casting its rays obliquely, dyeing the sea surface golden. Dozens of seagulls glided in the air, calling out from time to show the good mood brought by this beautiful morning. Whoosh, a sound of air tearing was heard, followed by a scream. The flock of seagulls was startled and scattered, and immediately flew around, gathering again in the distance after a long time. Looking closely again, one of their companions was missing. At the same time, a seagull pierced by a crossbow arrow fell from the deck of a large ship on the sea with a bang, and was then picked up by a big hand like a palm leaf fan. Damn it, you don't let me sleep well so early in the morning. Calling, calling, calling. See if I can still make noise after I shoot you down. The person who spoke was the owner of the big hand. The man was short and stout, but his clothes were disheveled. He was a dwarf who had just gotten out of bed. The dwarf held a crossbow in one hand and the poor seagull in the other, muttering, "I was just woken up by these dead birds. I haven't had breakfast yet, so I might as well pluck the feathers of this bird and make soup for a meal." It seems that it was this dwarf who shot down a seagull and scared away the flock of seagulls. The other people on the deck saw the dwarf with sleepy eyes, but no one cared. Instead, when the dwarf passed by, they all stood up straight and shouted, "Hello, boss." That's right, the irritable dwarf who shot down a seagull early in the morning because it disturbed his sleep was Thresh, the leader of the prison pirates. Thresh was naturally on the flagship of the prison pirates. Around this flagship, there were nearly 200 warships, forming a huge fleet. Unlike other fleets, all the warships and crew members in this fleet belonged to the prison pirates, and there were no other pirate groups in it. In the war with the Sea Clan, the Shadow Island organization required each fleet to consist of at least 200 warships in order to prevent the fleet from being too weak and being defeated one by one. However, there are only a few pirate groups in the entire Shadow Island organization that have 200 ships, so generally speaking, each fleet is composed of several or even a dozen pirate groups. But the prison pirates are different. First, as the 3rd largest pirate group in the Shadow Island organization, they already have nearly 200 warships, and they are originally from the same pirate group. The combat effectiveness that can be exerted is much stronger than that of a fleet of several pirate groups combined. Secondly, the prison pirates are not sociable. There are not many pirate groups that have a good relationship with them. If they are forced to gather together, it may lower their combat effectiveness. Therefore, the prison pirates roamed and fought in the seas where the Sea Clan appeared as a fleet on their own. Of course, although the number of warships is less than 200, no one thinks that the prison pirates will be in danger. In secret, the pirates actually felt that the prison pirates were stronger than the two previous pirate groups. After all, the prison pirates were mostly foreign races, and their average strength far exceeded that of ordinary human pirates. It was strange to say that the prison pirates had not encountered the sea tribe for more than half a month. Even the leader Thresh couldn't help but wonder while cooking the seagulls. Could it be that the sea tribes had been too ruthless in the previous encounters, making the sea tribes think that our fleet was not easy to mess with? It was precisely because he had not encountered the sea tribes for more than half a month that Thresh, as the leader, was still sleeping when the sun rose to the middle of the sky and was then awakened by the cry of the seagulls. After eating the poor seagull in the cabin, Thresh returned to his rest room, put on his short captain's uniform, and came to the deck again. Looking up, the irritable dwarf shouted loudly to the lookout on the top of the mast, "Long Ears, still haven't found those fishmen?" The lookout called Long Ears by Thresh was an elf. Although he was very dissatisfied with the nickname of Long Ears, he had no way to resist, so he had to answer Thresh unhappily. "Of course we didn't find any. We haven't even seen the shadow of the sea tribe in more than half a month, and today is no exception." Although the flagship was in the center of the fleet, because its mast was the highest, and the eyesight of the elven lookouts was much better than that of ordinary people, if there were traces of the sea tribe in the distance, it would be the flagship in the center of the fleet that would be the first to discover it compared to the ships on the periphery. Thresh shrugged his shoulders and didn't care. He also knew that the sea tribe might have been avoiding his fleet, and it was just a routine inquiry. Then, he called out the nicknames of the crew on the deck again, laughed, and prepared to return to the cabin. However, at this moment, the shocked and trembling voice of the elven lookout came from the mast. What is that?" Thresh's loose body suddenly tensed up, stopped laughing, and looked up at the mast. "Long Ears, what happened?" The elf lookout on the mast seemed not to hear Thresh's question. He stared at the direction where the sun rose, motionless, and muttered to himself. With the strength of a legendary dwarf berserker, Thresh heard the vague words from the elf lookout. How could it be that we are finished?" Thresh was shocked, and his fighting spirit ignited. He leaped to the lookout on the mast, and stood next to the elf lookout. Although the dwarf's eyesight is not as good as the elf's, his strong strength is enough to make up for it. Looking around, Thresh quickly found the reason why the elf lookout was in a state of confusion. Then, his face, which usually did not change color at all, turned pale. The sea area around the slowly advancing prison pirates was full of sparkling waves in the distance. And in this wave of light, countless sea creatures kept jumping. That's right, the fleet of the prison pirates has been surrounded by countless sea creatures. Thresh was filled with disbelief. How many sea creatures would be needed to surround the warden pirates, who had nearly 200 warships, in such a large sea area? Perhaps the sea creatures didn't send out so many troops during the attack on Shadow Island? Although Thresh and the elf lookout beside him didn't want to believe what they saw, the sea creatures had indeed surrounded the warden pirates, and were gradually closing in. Not long after, the lookouts on the periphery of the fleet also discovered the countless sea creatures approaching, and the entire pirate group was in chaos. Only then did Thresh recover from his shock, quickly jumped off the mast, hit the deck, and began to issue orders. "Quick! Use flag signals to order the fleet to stop moving forward. The ships in the outer circle should release all the magic mines they carry on their ships. Remember, all." Turning around, he gave another order to another crew member. "Let all magicians use liquid perspective to ensure that the sea creatures will not attack from below. Don't feel sorry when it's time to use depth charges. Just throw them hard." After quickly taking countermeasures, Thresh climbed up the mast again, began to look around, to estimate the approximate number of sea creatures attacking, and measured the strength of both sides. Soon, he came to an unsurprising conclusion. Although the Warden Pirates, as one of the controllers of the Shadow Island organization, have a large number of magic depth charges and magic mines, these alchemical items are far from enough in front of the endless sea creatures surrounding the fleet. Thresh even felt that, if the surrounding enemies only sent 1/10 of the low-level sea creatures to wade through the magic mines, they could easily get close to his warships. The final conclusion is that no matter whether the enemy is willing to sacrifice some of their troops, to step on the mines or not. The warden pirates will definitely not be able to withstand so many sea creatures. Turning his head, Thresh ordered the elf lookout who had just come out of his distraught state. Long ears, you go down first. I'll just observe here. Hurry up and let the magician send a message to other fleets to rescue us quickly. Time is running out. The elf lookout subconsciously stood up straight and answered yes. After that, he slid down the mast with a whoosh and went to find the communication magician on the flagship. Thresh, who was standing on the mast, still looked around with a frown. Why did the sea creatures suddenly send out so many troops to encircle and kill their own fleet? Are the sea creatures going to start a counterattack against the Shadow Island organization? Chapter 343 Forked Lightning. The warships outside the prison pirates fleet had received the order from the flagship through flag signals and quickly put all the magic mines on board into the sea. The entire fleet had stopped moving forward and was ready to rely on the mine array to defend. However, although the fleet was surrounded by mines, the pirates did not feel safe at all. As time passed, the sea tribe forces were gradually surrounding them. Now even the pirates on the deck could see the countless approaching vicious sea tribes. When they did not actually see the approaching enemy, but only the lookouts issued warnings, the pirates did not feel how serious the situation was. However, when their own eyes saw the large number of sea tribes that were rolling in the sea water, almost all the pirates were stunned. I haven't encountered sea tribes for more than half a month, and they came in such a large wave. The number of sea tribes attacking is a bit too outrageous. The pirates of the prison pirates have always been proud of themselves and the strength of the pirate group. Whether in terms of individual strength or team division of labor, the warden pirates, which have a large number of alien races, are much stronger than ordinary pirate groups. Just like in terms of lookouts, the warden pirates, which have elves as lookouts, can often find the enemy one step ahead of other pirates. But this sense of pride was shattered when facing the endless sea clan. Like the leader Thresh, the pirates of the warden pirates can see that such a large number of enemies are simply not something they can resist. For a moment, the faces of the pirates turned ugly. Fortunately, Thresh's order had been conveyed at this time, and relying on the discipline cultivated over a long period of time, the pirates of the warden pirates did not fall into a panic. The outer ships laid mines, and the inner warships used small boats to transport the magic mines loaded on their ships to the outer warships. At the same time, the pirate magicians in the fleet have also followed orders and maintained liquid perspective in almost all places in the sea area where the fleet is located to prevent the sea clan from attacking from below the fleet. Looking at the sea tribe troops approaching, Thresh decided to stay on the mast of the flagship to command. But before that, he had to confirm whether the communication magician in the fleet had contacted for support. Looking down, Thresh just saw the elven lookout who he had sent away from the lookout to inform the communication magician to request support hurriedly running from the back of the flagship to the deck. Seeing that the elven lookout looked bad, Thresh's heart tightened and he shouted, "Long ears, come up here quickly." This was not because Thresh was dissatisfied with the elven lookout, but because he always called himself that. The elven lookout was used to it and climbed up the mast and came to Thresh's side. According to Thresh's personality, he would normally ask about the situation from the top with a loud voice. But he saw that the elven lookout looked ugly and it was estimated that there was no good news. Because he was worried that, if he got a bad news in public, it would definitely affect morale. He let the elven lookout go up to the lookout to ask questions. "Long ears, what did Laurie say?" Thresh asked in a low voice. Laurie was the magician in the fleet who specialized in magic communication. The elf lookout adjusted his mood and answered Thresh in a heavy voice. "Boss, Laurie did successfully contact the other fleets." He smiled bitterly. Before Thresh could ask urgently, the elf lookout told him the bad news. "But even the fleet closest to us needs 2 hours to reach us. And there is only one. The fleet closest to us even needs 5 hours to sail." Thresh accepted the unfortunate news calmly, but his heart was cold. 2 hours? Thresh even felt that the warden pirates could not even hold out for an hour in front of the sea creatures that seemed to number tens of thousands. Moreover, even if they held out for 2 hours, he did not think that the support of a pirate fleet would change anything. Looking at the situation of the sea creatures, even if 3 or 4 pirate fleets gathered together, as long as they paid a certain price, the sea creatures could swallow them up in one gulp. We underestimated the Sea Clan. This time, the prison pirates may not be able to escape. Thresh already had such an understanding in his heart. Then, a trace of cruelty appeared on his rough face. Humph, damn Sea Clan, you want to eat my prison pirates. Even if I die, I will bite off a piece of meat from you. Seeing no hope of survival and escape, Thresh has made up his mind to kill as many Sea Clan as he can. He believes that the Shadow Island organization will avenge him. Unfortunately, Thresh did not know that the disaster he encountered was brought to him by his pirate companions in the Shadow Island organization. If it were not for some small actions of Yorick, there would not be only one pirate fleet within a 2-hour sailing distance around the prison pirates. The time of attack chosen by the Sea Clan was the best time for Yorick to notify them through Yuffie. Otherwise, if they attacked when there were several other pirate fleets in the waters near the prison pirates, although the Sea Clan could destroy these fleets with all their strength, it would not be worth the loss. Yuffie hopes to control the Shadow Island organization, not to destroy it. If the pirates and the sea tribes really engage in a large-scale fight, it will not be good for Yuffie and Tangier. A Shadow Island organization that suffers too much loss will not achieve Yuffie's goal of containing the human countries in the east. Just when Thresh, the leader of the prison pirates, was determined to fight the sea tribe to the death and kill as many enemies as possible, Tangier looked at the pirates busy arranging defense measures on a coral bed, carried by 4 Naga thugs in the distance, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She stood up from the coral bed and looked at the minor ray between the prison pirates and the sea tribe. Slowly raising her right hand, Tangier shouted softly, and then a ball of twisting electric light appeared out of thin air and radiated from in front of the coral bed. Forked lightning. The electric light looked like a small ball in front of the coral bed, but as it flew towards the minor ray, it gradually expanded and dispersed, turning into countless golden electric snakes that spread out more and more. Almost in the blink of an eye, the scattered electric snakes covered the sea surface where the minor ray was located. Bang, 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 boom, crash. After the electric snakes bombarded the sea surface where the minor ray was located, the magic mines placed there by the pirates were instantly triggered by the powerful lightning and exploded directly. Thousands of magic mines were detonated at the same time, blasting huge water columns on the sea surface, and even triggered a small tsunami. The small tsunami caused by the detonation of the minor ray was nothing to the sea creatures, who had been ordered to retreat a distance to avoid the electric current. But for the prison pirates, the tsunami caused by the mines they laid themselves brought them a lot of trouble. Fortunately, as one of the 4 major pirate groups organized by Shadow Island, the pirates of the prison pirates are all experienced seamen, and they tried their best to ensure that none of the outer ships were overturned by this small tsunami. However, the magic minor ray that the pirates relied on to hold off the sea tribe was destroyed by Tangier's forked lightning. The magic mines facing Tangier were almost annihilated and detonated by the electric snakes. Although the mines in other directions were not detonated, many were dispersed by the sudden small tsunami. Now the prison pirates can be said to have been opened by the sea tribe. Following the sea area, where the mines were cleared by Tangier's forked lightning, the sea tribe troops can march straight in. And just as the pirates thought, the sea tribe began to attack in the waves caused by the aftermath of that tsunami. Without the protection of the magic minor ray, the pirates can only rely on the cannons and crossbows on the ships. Magic depth charges are most effective when used against sea creatures attacking from below, otherwise they can only be thrown as grenades. Chapter 344 Dragon Turtle. Although they knew that the sea tribe would not dare to launch an attack from the sea below the fleet, the pirate magicians still did not dare to withdraw the liquid perspective. The magic depth charges on all the warships of the prison pirates have been placed on the side of the ship, ready to be thrown out at any time. Because after seeing the lethality of magic depth charges, the sea tribe rarely launched attacks from the bottom of the sea, so the pirates came up with other ways to use these killing weapons. Now every pirate ship is equipped with a varying number of small trebuchets. If these trebuchets are used to project stones, they can only project some small stones and will not cause any major damage. However, if they are used to project magic depth charges, it will be different. Originally, the pirates wanted to use cannons to launch magic depth charges so that they could shoot farther. But since a pirate who made a bold attempt was blown to pieces by a burst cannon, everyone gave up this beautiful idea and used a more primitive trebuchet. Compared with the two precious magic crystal cannons on the flagship of the pirate group, the lethality and range of this bomb projector are insufficient. But the magic crystal cannon is a very precious strategic weapon, and the entire prison pirates only have two on the flagship. In comparison, the bomb throwers, which are sufficient in number and easy to operate, are more popular. Facing the sea tribe troops rushing in from the gap in the Mineray, the entire prison pirates are ready for a decisive battle. The catapults are ready to fire, the cannons have been loaded, and the crossbows are strung. Even the two magic crystal cannons on the flagship, that are not easily used, have accumulated enough energy, and it seems that they are ready to fire from a line that the fleet can get out of the way at any time. As the sea tribe troops approached, the atmosphere among the pirates became very tense. However, just when the pirates' emotions accumulated to the limit and the various weapons on the warships were on the verge of firing, something happened that made them vomit blood. The sea tribe troops that were charging fiercely between the waves suddenly stopped swimming at the moment when Thresh was about to wave his hand to order a counterattack, and then retreated a short distance at a speed several points faster than when they were charging. Thresh used his strong body control to stop his hand from swinging down, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he didn't swing his hand down. Now all the gunners and crossbowmen of the pirate group were staring at him. If the order to attack was issued, most of the attacks would not be able to cover them according to the current distance of the sea creatures. Thresh, who was relieved in his heart, found the next moment that he was happy a little too early. The atmosphere before was extremely tense, and the strings in the hearts of every pirate were very tight. The sea creatures unexpectedly stopped moving forward and retreated slightly, which instantly broke the strings in the hearts of some pirates. Swish, a huge crossbow arrow shot out and fell into the sea without hesitation. The distance where the sea creatures stopped was the limit of the range of most of the pirates' weapons. In addition, they retreated a short distance, so this crossbow arrow did not hit any of the sea creatures' warriors as expected. However, although it did not cause any casualties to the enemy, this crossbow arrow brought a wave of powerful attacks. Everyone was very nervous, ready to fire cannonballs, bombs, and crossbows at any time. Now that the counterattack had begun, they were so anxious that they didn't even bother to estimate the range of their weapons, and all followed the crossbow and began to attack. For a moment, bombs and cannonballs flew on the sea, and crossbows were the same color as the boulders. Most of the warships of the prison warden pirates followed the cloud-piercing arrow and fired the weapons equipped on their ships. But then the pirates were embarrassed to find that countless cannonballs, bombs, and crossbows only covered the sea a little bit in front of the attacking force of the Sea Clan. In other words, their saturation attack was completely in vain. Thresh, who was standing on the flagship's observation deck, had jumped up in anger, and his face, which had been calm, turned completely black. Fuck him. Which idiot shot it? I'll skin him alive if you see me back. Thresh couldn't help but get angry. The combat supplies carried by less than 200 warships were limited. This time, facing a large number of enemies, Thresh did not think that he and his pirate group could survive. He was counting on the weapons carried on the ship to fight the enemy to the death and make enough money. Now a round of volleys has consumed almost 1/7 of the fleet's combat supplies. If all of this attacked the sea people, how many enemies could be dragged into the water? Now they are thrown into the sea in vain, and at most they are exchanged for some waves. Moreover, this round of attack was originally planned to be launched when the sea people rushed halfway, so that while causing huge casualties, it can temporarily block the subsequent enemies. At the same time, it can also give the pirates time to reload and string. But now the sea tribe troops are still huddled together and just stopped outside the attack coverage, without being killed or divided. Correspondingly, the pirates' weapons are temporarily unable to launch the next round of attack immediately after firing, and they must reload ammunition and string the bed crossbows. In other words, the pirates are now in an awkward attack gap. As expected by Thresh, he clearly saw from the flagship observation deck that the Sea Tribe troops really seized this opportunity and began to charge at full speed through the gap in the mine array. The Sea Tribe's attacking team did not attack in a sharp arrow shape as usual, but formed a horizontal line and charged in a square formation. Originally, this formation would suffer huge damage under the pirates' artillery fire and crossbows, but now that almost all the weapons on the pirate ships were being loaded, the Sea Tribe chose this most unscrupulous swarm charge formation. The Sea Tribe at the front was a group of bubble fishmen. They were low-level sea tribes and rushed to the front in order to use their bodies, all elves, to remove the magic mines that escaped the forked lightning. After the bubble fishmen, it was the main force of the Sea Tribe. Thresh quickly estimated in his mind that, although the Sea Tribe's charge speed was amazingly fast, the pirates could still load their weapons once and launch a round of counter-attack before they boarded. With a flash of thought, he commanded the pirate ships at the forefront of the attack of the Sea Tribe troops and quickly relayed some of the remaining magic mines on the ship. But plans can never keep up with changes. Thresh's response cannot be said to be incorrect, but something went wrong elsewhere. While the pirates were quickly loading cannons and catapults and stringing the bed crossbows, the pirate magicians who had been maintaining the liquid perspective shouted one after another. Something is floating up from the bottom of the sea. The Sea Tribe is attacking from below. The chaotic warnings made Thresh look at the sea surface below. Thanks to the liquid perspective that had not been revoked, he vaguely saw the situation on the seabed. In the deep sea, there were dozens of huge oval black shadows floating up rapidly. As these oval black shadows gradually approached the sea surface, Thresh vaguely saw that these black shadows seemed to be turtles! The corners of his mouth twitched, and Thresh cursed fiercely in his heart. "Nimmer such a big turtle?" Are you kidding? The oval black shadows floating up from the bottom of the sea are indeed a group of turtle creatures. But what Thresh didn't know was that they were not sea turtles, but the powerful army that the Naga tribe had just trained, the dragon turtles. There were about 50 dragon turtles, each as big as half a warship, and their thick carapaces were covered with hideous bone cones, which made them look particularly majestic and domineering. The four thick scaly legs seemed to be paddling slowly, but they made their huge bodies float up at an absolutely fast speed. Thresh vaguely saw that there were several larger black shadows under the gaps between these dozens of huge sea turtles. But because of the obstruction of the giant turtles, he couldn't tell what these larger black shadows were. But there was one thing he was sure of, whether it was the huge sea turtles or the black shadows below, they must be the troops used by the Sea Tribe to attack the warships. Therefore, he took measures immediately. "Brothers who are idle, hold a depth charge for me and smash those sea turtles hard." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345 Deep Sea Chapter. Humph, these sea creatures really don't learn their lesson. They dare to launch an attack from the bottom of the sea. Thresh was secretly angry. Do they think that when we deal with the frontal offensive, we will not pay attention to the situation on the bottom of the sea? Too naive. Although the pirates are now using magic depth charges as ammunition for catapults, these easy to use alchemical items can be restored to their original purpose at any time. At Thresh's command, the pirates on the side of the ship picked up the magic depth charges one by one and threw them into the sea. Relying on the effect of liquid perspective, the pirates aimed at the huge turtles. Most of them were aliens, and they were very confident that the bombs could hit the target. As they expected, most of the depth charges hit the target. When the pirates dropped the depth charges, the pirate magician took back the liquid perspective. Because under the continuous explosion of the magic depth charges, the liquid perspective would definitely be destroyed by the violent magic shockwave. At that time, the magician who cast the spell will suffer some backlash and will not be able to use liquid perspective for a short period of time. If it is taken back automatically, there will naturally be no magic backlash. After the bomb explodes, the pirate magicians can cast liquid perspective again to check the effect of the bomb. Although there are many magic depth charges dropped, because they are almost all dropped at the same time, the explosion sound only spreads violently in the sea for a short while before it stops. At this time, the sea creatures attacking head-on have only rushed to half the distance. Almost at the same time as the explosion sound stopped, several pirate magicians urgently cast liquid perspective on the sea surface, wanting to see what kind of tragic scene the 50 huge turtles would be under the baptism of nearly 1,000 depth charges. However, these anxious pirate magicians had just arranged the magic on the sea surface, and even the image in the sea had not yet appeared, when an accident happened. From several circular areas, formed by liquid perspective, that were completely different in color from the surrounding sea surface, huge water columns suddenly shot out. The color of these water columns was very dark, and they exuded a strong magical aura, which made the pirates who saw them change their faces instantly. The target of dozens of deep blue water columns was the pirate magicians who were regarded as treasures. Several magicians who couldn't wait to cast liquid perspective first had their magic broken and fell into a state of mental disorder. Then, when they were still dizzy, they were attacked by extremely powerful water columns and were instantly torn into pieces. The other magicians who were a step slower were fine. Except for a few unlucky ones who were targeted by multiple water columns, they all survived by taking various measures such as magic shields, water element affinity and even donkey rolling. Just when the pirates were stunned that the precious magicians were suddenly attacked and lost nearly 10 of them, the culprit who caused this to happen appeared in front of everyone. There was only the sound of waves rolling on the sea, and 50 dragon turtles floated to the surface of the sea almost unscathed. Except for a few dragon turtles that may have had some shallow marks on their solid carapaces because they were hit by dozens of bombs at the same time. There was no sign of nearly 1,000 magic depth charges on these dragon turtles. Seeing this horrifying scene, even Thresh on the observation deck couldn't help but widen his eyes. Magic depth charges have always been a weapon that pirates rely on to fight against the sea people. If it weren't for this alchemical weapon, the pirates would have no way to deal with the extremely flexible sea people in the sea. Whether in the Battle of Shadow Island or in the scattered battles with the sea people over the past month, magic depth charges have played a pivotal role. It can be said that more than 80% of the casualties caused by the Shadow Island organization to the sea people are due to depth charges. However, now, this huge sea turtle that has been baptized by magic depth charges head on and is almost unscathed has appeared in the sea people's troops, which is a huge blow to the pirates. Looking at the thick black-brown carapace and the bone cones flashing with cold light, some pirates who were ready to continue throwing bombs even put down their bombs in dejection. This terrifying creature that even the most lethal weapons in the hands of pirates could not work on made the pirates of the long-tested prison pirates lose their courage. After killing several pirate magicians with the spray of water and floating on the sea surface, the 50 dragon turtles stopped moving strangely and did not attack the warship as the pirates imagined. This made the pirates of the prison pirates calm down a little after being frightened. After carefully weighing it, Thresh was the first to put his mind at ease. After all, the size of the dragon turtle is only half the size of a warship, and it is not a sea creature like the tuna man who can easily penetrate the hull. In fact, the threat to the warship is not great. In other words, although the pirates' weapons can't do anything to these steel-like dragon turtles, the dragon turtles have no effective means of destroying the warship. At most, they can use the spray of water to sweep the deck, but doing so will also be attacked by the pirates. Perhaps they understood this, so the dragon turtles that floated to the sea did not spray water, but retracted their huge heads into their shells, making it impossible for the pirates to attack them. So, Thresh ordered to ignore these dragon turtles that did not pose much threat, and let the pirates focus their attack on the large sea tribe troops rushing towards them. After a period of rewinding and reloading, the crossbows and cannons on the pirate ships were ready to go. The small catapults were also replaced with slightly modified magic depth charges. As soon as Thresh gave the order, these weapons would pour firepower on the sea tribe troops. This time, even if you want to retreat immediately, you can't get out of our firepower coverage. Squinting his eyes, Thresh raised his arm again, ready for the pirates to launch a counterattack at the same time. But God obviously didn't want the pirates to launch even one counterattack smoothly. Just as Thresh was about to swing down his arm that was being watched by the pirates of the entire pirate group, an accident happened again. The largest flagship of the wooden pirates suddenly shook violently. Thresh, who was standing at the highest point, almost fell off the observation deck without paying attention. Fortunately, his legendary strength allowed him to stabilize his body in time and avoid making a fool of himself. When he stabilized his body and looked around, he found that the warships of the entire fleet began to shake violently. Accordingly, the counterattack that the pirates had originally prepared was aborted by this sudden shaking. What's going on? Thresh was furious. The dragon turtles still didn't move, as if they were there to resist the pirates' magic depth charges, and nothing else had anything to do with them. If it wasn't caused by these dragon turtles, how could the warship shake? Like ordinary pirates, Captain Thresh was also full of doubts. Just when the entire pirate group was in a confused and suspicious atmosphere, waves of water sounded throughout the sea, and dozens of huge long black shadows came out of the sea, bringing up a bunch of splashing water. Bang! These black shadows fell fiercely on more than a dozen pirate ships, and the huge force actually penetrated the deck of the warship, causing the sound of the collision to be followed by the creaking sound of the wooden boards breaking. Including the flagship, more than a dozen pirate ships suffered heavy damage in an instant. When the water splashes and the scattered wooden boards settled, everyone looked closely and recognized the faces of these dozens of long black shadows. I saw that these black shadows that penetrated the hull of the pirate ship were all dark red, and there were terrifying large and small suction cups underneath. These black shadows looked like octopus tentacles. However, these tentacles were too huge. Just the part that stretched out of the sea was 70 or 80 meters long and 5 or 6 meters thick, which was several times larger than the tentacles of the giant squid that the experienced pirates had seen before. They don't know that the owner of these tentacles is the overlord of the deep sea, a deep sea giant seal that is countless times more terrifying than the giant squid. Everyone, please give some votes or something. The data is really terrible. Chapter 346 Powerless Pirates. Although they didn't recognize the deep sea giant seal, no pirate doubted the power of these dark red giant tentacles. The hulls and decks of the warships of the prison pirates were made of specially selected virtual gold wood, and some warships, including the flagship, were reinforced with magic. But even such a sturdy ship was still smashed by the dark red tentacles, and even the most luxurious flagship was not spared. From this, we can see how terrifying these tentacles are. The pirates now understand where the violent shaking that appeared for no reason came from. There is no doubt that these terrifying tentacles must be the means of the sea people. Thresh now understands why the dragon turtles behaved so strangely. They are really shields used to block bombs. Thresh also remembered that before the magician's liquid perspective was not cancelled, he vaguely saw several larger black shadows deeper in the seabed, where the dragon turtles were. He didn't care at the time, but now it seems that those black shadows are obviously the owners of these huge tentacles that suddenly appeared. Thresh leaped and landed heavily on the deck of the flagship. In the center of the deck, the originally flat wooden board had been smashed into pieces. A huge dark red tentacle was lying there, and it was still twisting slowly. Thresh roared and raised the dark golden giant axe he took out from the space ring. The fighting spirit, that was very similar to the color of the tentacle, was boiling on his body. This deep red fighting spirit was the sea-burning fighting spirit that made Thresh famous. On the boundless ocean, Thresh, the leader of the prison pirates, was good at a powerful fire attribute fighting spirit. If it were an ordinary person, he would definitely be laughed at by everyone. Because in the ocean, both fire attribute fighting spirit and magic would be greatly weakened under the opposition of attributes. However, Thresh was different. Although the sea-burning fighting spirit he practiced was a fire attribute fighting spirit, it was a very special kind of fighting spirit that would not be weakened much in the sea area with abundant water element. It was with the powerful cultivation supported by this special fighting spirit that Thresh was able to form the prison warden pirates. Because of the attribute restraint, the sea-burning fighting spirit that was not weakened by a bit became even more blazing in the ocean environment. The power attributes of ordinary sea monsters and strong men walking in the sea are biased towards water attributes, and fire attribute attacks have a miraculous effect on them. It is precisely because of this that Thresh, whose true strength is legendary, often exerts power beyond the legendary level when fighting sea monsters. Thresh has the characteristic of extra lethality to water-attributed creatures, which is also reflected when dealing with the tentacles of the deep-sea giant seal. His deep red fighting spirit gradually condensed on the dark golden giant axe, making the entire giant axe dyed red. After roaring again, Thresh swung the axe in his hand fiercely, and a red light suddenly flew out and slashed at the huge tentacle that was still twisting in the fragments of the flagship deck. In the process of flying for less than a second, the red light became bigger and bigger, and finally when it landed on the edge of the giant tentacle, it turned into a dark red light axe 8 or 9 meters long. Then, this light axe, which was longer than the diameter of the deep-sea giant octopus's tentacle, fell on the deep-sea giant octopus's tentacle. There was only a long and piercing sound, and the dark red light axe and the dark red giant tentacle decided the winner. The characteristics of Thresh's sea-burning fighting spirit were indeed revealed. The giant tentacle with a diameter of more than 6 meters that he attacked was actually cut in half, leaving only a small part of the skin and flesh connected, and it was almost cut off in its entirety. What made the pirates sigh was that this giant tentacle still could not be broken by their powerful leader in one blow. Thresh naturally heard the sighs from his men, and at the same time, he was secretly amazed at the toughness of the deep-sea giant octopus's tentacles. He gritted his teeth and did not give up. He raised the dark golden giant axe again. This time, he did not release the fighting spirit light flame, but circulated it around his body. After a very short period of charging, Thresh took 2 steps at a time and rushed to the violently twisting tentacle that was almost cut off. He kicked the ground with his feet and leaped up. The axe blade flashed with an unstable red light. Thresh fell on the twisting giant tentacle in a classic style. Swish, a not so loud sound rang out, and Thresh and the bounced giant tentacle crossed each other and landed on the part of the deck that was still intact. Swish, swish, the tentacle of the deep-sea giant snapped from the position where the light axe had cut most of it, and a long section of the tentacle fell into the cabin below the shattered deck. After some light blue blood slowly seeped out from the section where the tentacle was cut off, the tentacle actually stopped bleeding, and then the shortened tentacle quickly twisted and retracted into the sea. Seeing the inexplicably appearing monster retreat under the might of their boss, the pirates who saw this scene couldn't help but cheer. But their cheers were a little premature. Although Thresh tried his best to cut off a tentacle of the deep-sea giant cicada, it also consumed a lot of energy. What's more, there were dozens of huge tentacles emerging from the sea. After the tentacle of a certain unlucky deep-sea giant cicada was cut off, dozens of giant tentacles extending out of the sea seemed to be enraged and began to wave violently. The cheers of the pirates came to an abrupt end, followed by the sound of several ships breaking. Several angry deep-sea giant cicadas selected a warship respectively, and several tentacles exerted force at the same time, causing 5 pirate ships to be directly strangled and slowly sank. This terrifying scene brought, in addition to the sound of gasps, only desperate struggles. The pirates tried their best and began to attack the deep-sea giant cicada, and even temporarily ignored the sea tribe troops that were about to arrive in front of the fleet. There was no way. Under the stirring of the deep-sea giant seal, all the weapons that were ready to be used became crooked and could not be activated at all. Compared with the sea tribe troops that had not yet attacked the surroundings, the deep-sea giant seal that directly began to destroy the ship was obviously a greater threat. The pirates could only choose to try to solve the crisis in front of them first. However, Thresh was a legendary dwarf warrior, and he also had the sea-burning fighting spirit that restrained aquatic creatures. Even so, he still spent a lot of effort to cut off a tentacle of a deep-sea giant seal. What kind of resistance could the pirates, who were far less powerful than the leader Thresh, make? If the deep-sea giant seal was still on the seabed, the pirates could also use a large number of magic depth charges to injure, or even kill them to drive away these sea monsters. After all, although the tentacles of the deep-sea giant seal were tough, they were not thick bone armor like the dragon turtle, but just tougher flesh and blood. The magic depth charge still had a good killing power on this flesh and blood body. However, now the deep-sea giant seal has surfaced under the cover of the dragon turtle's firepower and is entangled with more than a dozen pirate ships, which has become very troublesome. It is impossible for the pirates to detonate a large number of bombs on their warships. In this case, the pirate ship itself will be blown to pieces before the deep sea giant seal is injured. The helpless pirates can only use their weapons to slash at the tentacles that are so huge to them, just like Thresh. However, the strength that used to be superior to ordinary pirates seemed so powerless in front of the deep sea giant seal, a sea monster close to level 9. Even if the giant crossbow was shot at the tentacles, it would be bounced off. The sound of water gradually became louder and louder. Hoo-la-la. While some pirates were struggling with the deep sea giant seal and other pirates were trying their best to reorganize their weapons to fight against the sea people pouring in from the gap in the magic minaret had already contacted the pirate ship at the front of the fleet. Tangia's forked lightning detonated most of the mines in front of the fleet, and the mines that escaped were waded away by the low-level sea creatures at the front. When they arrived in front of the pirate fleet, the main force of the sea creatures was intact. The pirates could have launched 2 rounds of strong counterattacks, but they were all destroyed by the sea creatures. Now the pirates no longer have any hope of holding on. Chapter 347 Destruction. Thresh summoned up his fighting spirit, flew into the air, raised his axe and fiercely faced a tentacle that was swinging at him. However, he failed to cut off the tentacle this time, but only cut half of it with the light axe formed by the burning sea fighting spirit attached to the axe. Although he was powerful, his fighting spirit could not be squandered casually. In order to protect the flagship of the prison pirates, Thresh had done his best, but luck obviously did not favor him. Just as he was about to cut off this tentacle in one go, a whistling wind came from behind. There was no need to look back. Thresh knew that this must be another tentacle of the sea monster attacking him from behind. He took a breath and jumped up, and he had no choice but to dodge this attack, and at the same time he had no chance to take advantage of the situation to cut off the injured tentacle with another axe. Looking around, the pirates had no way to deal with the deep sea giant seal. Although they only targeted dozens of ships in the center of the fleet to create chaos, they made a large area of the sea turbulent. Moreover, the 50 dragon turtles that had been silent since floating on the surface also began to attack after the deep sea giant seal appeared. They cooperated with the tentacles of the deep sea giant seal in 2s and 3s and used their carapaces to push the pirate ships taken care of by the giant tentacles and easily overturned them. From time to time, some dragon turtles sprayed water columns with great power from a distance, causing chaos to the pirate ships behind. The damage that the deep sea giant seal can cause in the sea is really too great. Anyone can easily overturn or even smash a pirate ship with a few tentacles. After the dragon turtles participated in the destruction, they could kill a pirate ship with only one tentacle with the cooperation of several dragon turtles. Now, only some pirate ships at the rear of the fleet have not yet fallen into chaos. The ships in the middle were overwhelmed by the 5 deep sea giant seals and 50 dragon turtles, and even the flagship could not make effective commands. The ships in front had already started fighting with the sea tribe that was attacking head on, and soon they were at a disadvantage. Unlike the battle between pirates, the sea tribe had no intention of seizing ships. Waves of tuna people rushed forward, using their sharp and hard nose to pierce the bottom of the pirate ship, causing the pirate ships in front of the fleet to sink one by one, bringing one whirlpool after another. Pa! The sound of a hammer breaking an egg sounded. A pirate ship that was originally intact suddenly turned into countless fragments and fell into the sea. A beautiful whale cry sounded immediately, and when I looked closely, a huge giant whale warrior appeared in the wreckage that had not yet fallen. This pirate ship was actually shattered by this giant whale warrior. A purple black crow that had been hovering over the sea also had a look of shock in its eyes. This purple black crow was naturally transformed from a raptor druid. Now, Euphony was observing the battle between the Sea Clan and the prison pirates through the storm crow. The powerful strength of the Sea Clan in the naval battle is eye-catching. Apart from other things, the deep sea giant scorpion and the giant whale warrior are indeed the high-end combat forces of the Naga clan that Tangiagia has found. Although they are much clumsier than the heroes with various special skills, the huge destructive power brought by their savage and powerful strength and size is fascinating. At this time, Euphony was still muttering in his heart that this little Lalita was not honest and did not tell him that the Naga clan could even train dragon turtles. When thinking about this, he did not consider that he had hidden more things from others. Yufei did not care too much about the other arms of the Naga clan. Although the arms of the Naga clan are amphibious creatures, they must be weakened on land. And if they go to places with scarce inland waters, their strength will be greatly reduced. As for the Naga Siren and Naga Thug, they are even worse than the Mugger. Although they can go ashore, if they don't touch the water for a period of time, they will feel very uncomfortable and even lose their combat effectiveness. The flying dragons are still quite powerful on land. However, the above mentioned arms of the Naga tribe have a shortcoming. That is, they are good at attacking, but not enough at defending. Even the Naga Thug only has a relatively thick blue keratin skin as a defensive measure, which is really difficult to serve as the front row. The key to the transition between the Naga tribe's offense and defense lies in the dragon turtle. To be frank, even the mountain giants of the Night Elves are inferior to the dragon turtles of the Naga tribe in terms of defense. From the fact that they are still intact in front of the magic depth charge, we can see how terrible the defense of the dragon turtle is. Compared with the mountain giants, the dragon turtles are just lacking in offensive ability. However, the other troops of the Naga tribe are all very powerful arms, which are enough to make up for this shortcoming. And the most important thing is that the dragon turtle is a soldier that can fight on land for a long time. According to Yufei's guess, when the dragon turtle reaches the elite level or even the elite level, the attack type will become chaotic. In this way, their offensive ability will also be greatly improved. This means that the Naga tribe can even rely on the powerful dragon turtle troops to participate in the conquest of the land of SYNOPSIS continent. And Yufei's eyes turned for a moment. The dragon turtle can be trained, so the flying snake must have formed a scale, right? The flying snake is the only flying soldier of the Naga tribe. Most of the Naga tribe soldiers are amphibians, and only the flying snake is a soldier that can engage in air combat. From this, you can imagine how strong the combat effectiveness of the flying snake troops is. According to Yufei's memory, let alone the horned eagle of the Night Elves, even the Orcs two-legged dragon is far worse than the flying snake. In some maps, modified by players, that can use the Naga tribe, the Naga flying snake flow is an extremely powerful tactic. In addition, Yufei vaguely remembered that the flying snake also had the same exorcism skills as the Night Elf deer, which could be said to be a versatile person. If the Naga tribe trained a large number of flying snakes in addition to the dragon turtle troops, it would be easy to successfully land on the SYNOPSIS continent and ignite a considerable war. With this thought, Yufei's slight discomfort caused by Tang Yijia's concealment disappeared. After circling above the battlefield again, the storm crow flew away. The pirates were powerless at this time. The moment they were surrounded by the sea tribe, their fate of destruction was doomed. It was a pity that the weak resistance did not cause much damage to the enemy under the full efforts of the sea tribe. The overall situation was determined, and Yufei was too lazy to watch another massacre. But he didn't see that when the storm crow turned and flew away, Tang Yijia, who had cast a fork-shaped lightning in the distance, and then half lying on the coral bed, seemed to have sensed something, and glanced in that direction, and turned his eyes to the battlefield with a smile. The shouts and killings on the battlefield between the Sea Clan and the wooden pirates have gradually become sparse. Even though Thresh burnt his fighting spirit and fought desperately, he still couldn't save the huge flagship of the pirate group. 2 deep-sea giant dragon turtles and more than 10 cooperated to turn this huge ship, which was attached with countless magic, and could be called half an alchemical product, upside down. After it capsized, the fate of the ship could be imagined. The sea warriors who had already attacked the central part of the fleet rushed up, and began to kill the pirates who fell into the water. The pirate flagship was soon torn apart by the additional damage of the deep-sea giant seal that became extremely angry because one of its tentacles was cut off. At the sky level, both warriors and mages can fly in the air for a long time. As a powerful warrior of the legendary level, Thresh naturally fell into the water after the flagship capsized, but stood still in the void, looking at the pirate ships that sank one after another in the smoke around him. Thresh let out a roar of grief and anger, and raised his axe without hesitation, to chop at the aquatic creatures in the sea. However, a giant whale warrior waved a huge anchor made of unknown metal, and slammed it down at him fiercely. Puff! Blood spurted out, as if it was free, and Thresh's body fell into the sea powerlessly. Below, there was a group of shark warriors who were grinding their teeth. Chapter 348 Night Attack. The sun gradually sank into the western horizon, and the sea quickly became cold. As cold as the sea, the hearts of the pirates on Shadow Island were also cold. When they found themselves surrounded by a large force of sea creatures, the prison pirates had already sent out a message for help through the communication magician. Under the instruction of Thresh, the message for help was also sent out with the size of the attacking sea creatures. When he noticed the number of enemies, he clearly realized that they would definitely not be able to hold out until the arrival of reinforcement. It was for this reason that he informed other pirate fleets of the size of the sea creatures and asked them to gather enough ships before collecting the bodies for the prison pirates. Unfortunately, when 5 hours later, a large force of nearly 10 pirate fleets with a total of 2,000 warships arrived at the sea where the prison pirates were attacked, but they could not see anything. Under the rampage of the deep sea giant seal, the dragon turtle and other sea creatures, the warships of the prison pirates were all shattered and fell into the sea. The pirates who fell into the sea were naturally killed one by the sea creatures and their bodies sank to the bottom of the sea. Even some broken wooden boards floating on the sea were washed away by the waves within 5 hours, leaving no trace. The pirates who came to help in name, but also knew in their hearts that they were here to collect corpses, were speechless for a long time when they saw the calm sea area that seemed to have no waves. One of the 4 giants of Shadow Island organization disappeared in this sea area in just a few hours. All the pirates felt a sense of unreality. In the Shadow Island Council, the atmosphere was also extremely solemn. The fleets of the war pirates and the widow pirates were too far away and could not return to Shadow Island in a short time. The only remaining speaker, Yorick, presided over the meeting. The huge meeting room was dead silent at this moment. After receiving the news, the pirate councilors who could rush to Shadow Island for the meeting tried their best to rush there. The entire meeting room gathered about 60% of the councilors of Shadow Island Council, and these councilors controlled nearly 2/5 of the power of Shadow Island Council. The prison pirates ranked 3rd in the Shadow Island organization, but everyone knew that their strength did not match the 3rd place. If most of the pirates in the group were not aliens, and most of the pirates in the Shadow Island organization were human, maybe Thresh would become the first speaker. In terms of strength, the prison pirates are much stronger than the 2nd-ranked widow pirates, and are not much inferior to the 1st-ranked war pirates. It's just that the war pirates are the earliest pirate kings, and the widow pirates are very popular among pirates, so the prison pirates are ranked 3rd. It can be said that the pirate groups of the councilors present are also part of the upper pyramid in the pirate world, but even if 3 ordinary large pirate groups are tied together, their combat power may not be comparable to that of the prison pirates. And such a powerful pirate group was actually wiped out by the Sea Tribe, without even a trace left. This made the pirate leaders begin to doubt whether fighting the Sea Tribe was the right decision. Yorick, who was sitting in the first place, was calm. Although the Shadow Island organization initially went to war with the Sea Clan because of the information he provided and his subtle instigation, the 4th speaker at the time was not taken seriously by everyone. The decision to go to war with the Sea Clan was made jointly by the 3 speakers and most of the parliamentarians. In this case, no one can blame him. Moreover, during this period of time, Yorick has been secretly spreading anti-war sentiment according to Euphena's plan, and has bribed many parliamentarians, while winning the hearts of the people. In fact, more than 60% of the parliamentarians sitting in the conference hall now, more than 70% of whom are pirate leaders who have been bribed by Yorick, or are inclined to Yorick. Taking advantage of his position of arranging cruises in Shadow Island, Yorick deliberately left all the pirate leaders close to him around Shadow Island today. After a period of silence, Yorick took the lead to break the solemn atmosphere. Then the pirates present began to whisper and discuss what to do next. The first thing that was made clear by everyone was to recall the pirate fleet that was still wandering outside as soon as possible. Even the wooden pirates, which can be regarded as the strongest organization in Shadow Island, have been destroyed. If other pirate fleets encounter the large formation of the Sea Clan, they will not be spared. The most urgent task is to gather the remaining 3 speakers to discuss the next strategy. Because each pirate fleet has a communication magician, most pirates have now learned that the wooden pirates were annihilated by the attack of the Sea Clan, and the middle and lower level pirate groups are in a panic. Listening to the discussion of a group of counselors below, Yorick's thoughts drifted elsewhere. After hearing the news, the war pirates and the widow pirates have begun to rush back, but because they are in a relatively distant sea area, even if they are at full speed, they will not be able to return to Shadow Island until at least tomorrow night. It's a pity that they may not see the sun tomorrow morning, let alone return to Shadow Island tomorrow night. Unconsciously, under the arrangement of the master, he was about to change from an ordinary little pirate leader to the sole overlord who controlled the SLAC. Looking at the members who were still chattering and hoping that the first and second speakers could come back as soon as possible, Yorick sneered in his heart. It is estimated that at this time, the war pirates and the widow pirates have already encountered the sea people, right? In the two seas about 700 kilometers northeast and 600 kilometers southeast of Shadow Island, two large fleets are traveling overnight. Generally speaking, at night, the pirate fleet will anchor at the islands that have been found in advance and no longer cruise. It is not because they cannot travel at night, but they are just worried about encountering the sea people at night. After all, there are not many magicians among the pirates. If they maintain liquid perspective and light magic at the same time, it is inevitable that they will be unable to do it. Fighting against the sea people without a view of the sea, even the three major pirate groups will find it difficult to continue. If there is no big thing, even the two largest pirate groups in the Shadow Island organization will not choose to travel at night. The destruction of the wooden pirates made them nervous. The two major pirate groups divided the magicians into two parts, one to maintain the liquid perspective, and the other to maintain the light spell, to prevent the Sea Clan from attacking them. But unfortunately, the Sea Clan did not even think of attacking these two fleets with similar strength to the wooden pirates. The two magicians on the periphery of the fleet were concentrating on maintaining the spells, and the pirates on guard were staring at the sea surface that was clearly visible under the light spell and liquid perspective without blinking, not daring to relax at all. Suddenly, one of the pirates moved his ears and quietly asked another pirate next to him, "Hey, did you hear any sound?" The pirate was taking a lazy nap, and he woke up in a daze when asked. He shook his head and looked around, wondering, what sound? Why didn't I hear it? The pirate who asked the question took 2 steps forward and looked carefully at the sea surface, but found nothing. He also shook his head, retreated to the side of his companions, and whispered, "Maybe I heard it wrong. I seemed to hear the sound of a giant whale exhausting not far away." Just as he said this, and was about to remind his companions not to be lazy and get discovered, his whole body suddenly fell forward involuntarily. The entire ship he was on seemed to be hit by a huge force, and was even temporarily blown away from the sea. The magician who maintained the liquid perspective screamed in pain. In this violent shaking, the magic was forced to be interrupted and suffered some backlash. With the help of the light spell that was barely maintained, the pirates who were holding onto the ropes or pillars and trying their best to fight against the sudden turbulence suddenly saw that a giant whale with a strange body standing up was raising a huge anchor and slamming it down fiercely. Bang! The pirate ship was directly smashed into pieces, and the originally calm sea gradually began to make a sound of rushing. The startled pirates ran out of the cabin one by one, and what they saw was a sea creature with a hideous face. Chapter 349 Yorick takes the throne. Shadow Island. The eyes of all the members in the conference hall were red, and they had not slept all night. Although Shadow Island had enough strength, because of their return, they were not afraid of possible attacks from the Sea Tribe. But they were worried that other fleets wandering outside would be defeated one by the Sea Tribe, causing the strength of the Shadow Island organization to be eroded by the Sea Tribe. The members who could become the leaders of a large pirate group were all strong, and staying up all night was nothing. Before the two speakers Hecarim and Evelyn came back to preside over the situation, no one could rest peacefully. Of course, many members of the parliament looked at Yorick, the only one sitting in the speaker's seat, from time to time, so as to calm down a little. The power level of the Shadow Island organization is very clear. Each speaker is a pirate king elected once every 10 years, and has a reputation and strength far beyond that of ordinary pirate groups. The members of the Shadow Island Parliament are considered nobles among pirates. Each member controls a large pirate group, which is much stronger than ordinary pirates. Pirate groups at this level have almost gotten rid of the means of robbery, and each has a well-divided sea area to collect protection fees. Even some members of the Shadow Island organization are actually pirates in secret, but they have the identity of a certain chamber of commerce in public. Further down, there are large and medium-sized pirate groups that are not qualified to enter the parliament. This part of the pirate group is the backbone of the Shadow Island organization. Although the strength of each pirate group may not be too strong, the number can make up for it. Generally speaking, the pirates in the coastal residents' cognition are this part. The lowest level is naturally those small pirate groups or even pirate rangers with only one ship. This part of pirates can only bully small caravans and some coastal fishing villages. Some of them are actually just adventurers who are mixed in the sea and are assigned to the Shadow Island organization. Every speaker can be regarded as a monument in the Shadow Island organization. Even Yorick, who has been in office for a short time, is actually one of the highest powers in the entire Shadow Island organization in name, and his status is the same as the previous 3 speakers. In fact, Yufen's plan is very simple, that is, to use the hands of the Sea Tribe to eliminate the 3 major pirate groups above the Anchor Pirates, so that Yorick can become the only pirate king of the Shadow Island organization, and legitimately become the supreme ruler of the Shadow Island organization, no one else. Some smart pirates may question why only Yorick, the speaker, survived, but Yorick had already made an open reason before. Because I just came to power, I felt that my strength and prestige were insufficient, so I chose to assign a patrol route on the Shadow Island instead of fighting with the Sea Tribe to make achievements. I didn't want to escape the focus of the Sea Tribe. It's a blessing. These words are Yorick's explanation to the middle-level pirates, who occupy most of the power of the Shadow Island organization. As for the lower-level pirates, they are generally ignored. The key to controlling the Shadow Island organization is actually with the councillors. In Yorick's plan, the 60% of the councillors who are now in the Shadow Island Conference Hall can all be won over. Those pirates who tend to be the 3 speakers and the councillors who are more independent were arranged to a farther place by him, by taking advantage of his position. As long as the councillors in the conference hall support him, then controlling the Shadow Island organization is a sure thing. Looking around the hall, Yorick thought silently in his heart that he just had to wait for the news of the destruction of the war pirates and the widow pirates. At this moment, a burst of hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside the hall. Everyone in the hall was refreshed. Although they knew that the 2 speakers could not come back so quickly, it would be great to have some news to break the dull atmosphere of the meeting. Squeak. The door of the conference hall was pushed open vigorously, and the early morning sun poured in, making everyone in the hall squint their eyes. Huff, huff. The person who came in was obviously very tired, and he was panting violently as soon as he entered the door. A pirate councillor near the door recognized that this was an apprentice of a communication magician on Shadow Island, and immediately stepped forward to help the magic apprentice who was bent over and panting. Han, what's the hurry? You're running so hard. What message did Mr. Batia receive? Tell us quickly, the congressman asked, after helping the apprentice Han sit on a small stool. The pirate leaders in the hall immediately focused their attention on the magic apprentice. Being watched by the bigwigs and the organization, Han was obviously a little nervous, and coupled with the fatigue of running, he couldn't speak. But fortunately, he barely calmed down in a few seconds, and announced the news brought by his teacher, the communication magician on the island. Teacher Batia said, huff, huff. He said that the fleet of the 2 speakers, huff. There has been no routine communication for 6 hours. Young Han knew what kind of shock this news would bring to the bigwigs present, and after announcing it, he dragged his tired body and left the conference hall. Bang, the sound of the door closing was so loud that the congressman in the hall trembled. Everyone knew what the news brought by the apprentice Han meant. Although magic transmission consumes some magic materials, in order to ensure the smooth flow of information and safety of each fleet, the fleet wandering outside will contact Shadow Island once every 2 hours. No news for 6 hours means that the fleets of the 2 speakers have not contacted Shadow Island at least 3 times. With the previous experience of the prison pirates, everyone can think that the war pirates and the widow pirates are probably in danger. The communication magicians of the prison pirates can still use the temporary safety brought by the minaret to ask for help and transmit messages. The two pirate groups should have been attacked at night so that the communication magicians had no chance to communicate in a stable situation. There was no news for 6 hours, and it was almost certain that they had been wiped out by the Sea Clan. After a brief commotion, the members in the conference hall rushed out of the room and ran to the special communication magician tower on Shadow Island. Before the news was confirmed, everyone still held a glimmer of luck. If the 3 major pirate groups were all destroyed by the Sea Clan, it can be said that 3/4 of the monument of the Shadow Island organization would have fallen. Another half day passed, and the bad news was finally confirmed. After the dispatch, 2 fleets consisting of thousands of warships arrived at the sea area where the 2 pirate groups last sent information. After a simple search, they soon found the wreckage of the warships left after the battle. Perhaps because the battle took place at night, the 2 battlefields were different from the battlefields left after the attack on the Warden pirates, and many broken remains of ships could be seen. This undoubtedly confirmed that the 2 pirate groups had been destroyed by the night attack of the Sea Clan. The news could not be blocked. The 2 large pirate fleets that rushed to the battlefield to investigate the situation were composed of many pirate groups. Relying on magic communication methods, almost all pirate groups with magicians in the Shadow Island organization learned the bad news within 1 day. The first pirate king of the Shadow Island organization, Hecarim, the second pirate king, Avril, and the third pirate king, Thresh, together with their pirate groups, were completely destroyed by the concentrated strength of the Sea Clan within 2 days. The parliament also responded quickly and confirmed this unfortunate news. For a time, the hearts of the people in the Shadow Island organization were in turmoil. All 3 pirate kings were killed by the Sea Tribe. How could ordinary pirates feel safe? In this case, Yorick stood up as a matter of course. As the last remaining speaker in the organization and the only pirate king in the pirate world, Yorick began to sort out the chaotic situation in the organization. The first order he made was to withdraw all the pirate fleets cruising in the waters where the Sea Tribe appeared, and announced a temporary ceasefire. This immediately calmed the middle and lower level pirates and even some of the upper level pirates who were in a panic, and agreed to Yorick's instructions. In addition, Yorick had been secretly bribing parliamentarians and promoting anti-war sentiments among the middle and lower level pirates some time ago, and gained a lot of support. For a time, the pirates of the Shadow Island organization, both above and below, began to support Yorick. Chapter 350 Pirate Nation. 5 days later, the turmoil in the Shadow Island organization caused by the destruction of the 3 major pirate groups was roughly quelled, and the parliament held many urgent meetings to discuss the next direction of the organization. The tone of the truce with the Sea Clan was set first. The hidden strength of the Sea Clan was exposed at the beginning, which led to the destruction of the 3 major pirate groups. This made the pirates who had been fighting for a month and a half with no effort change their attitude towards the war. Pirates are not an army that likes to start a serious war. They are better at looting fleets, harassing coastal villages and ports, and even collecting protection fees. The pirates who have always been highly flexible and fighting in secret at sea are extremely frustrated when fighting with the Sea Clan, because the Sea Clan is more flexible and has become the enemy in the dark, and I'm in the light. The battle was already difficult, and suddenly found that the Sea Clan was not as easy to deal with as imagined, so the pirates began to unanimously oppose the war with the Sea Clan. In the eyes of the pirates below, Yorick was originally an anti-war speaker, so he naturally made a decision that conformed to the will of the people. Although Yorick proposed the various benefits of fighting the Sea Tribe at that time, the decision was made by the 3 speakers. At that time, due to the lack of prestige and Yorick's deliberate separation from the decision to start the war, except for the parliamentarians attending the meeting, other pirates always saw Yorick's anti-war face. Yorick, who catered to the public taste and won the support of more than half of the members of the Shadow Island Parliament, became the only supreme authority in the Shadow Island organization. In order to consolidate Yorik's position, Yufei even personally helped Yorik control the most prestigious veteran members of the parliament. Under the control of the parliament, all pirate fleets left the eastern war zone east of Shadow Island, which was regarded as directly abandoning the large sea area where the sea tribe most frequently appeared. Anyway, it was far away from the sea area of Eslay's continent, and the main area where the pirates did business was not there. Within the Shadow Island organization, the current mainstream opinion is to leave the sea tribe alone first and settle down internally. Of course, this is also a manifestation of the influence of the principle of pacifying the country before resisting foreign aggression proposed by our great speaker Yorik. Yufei used all means to focus on consolidating and improving Yorik's status. The demise of the three major pirate groups means that the power structure of the Shadow Island organization has been greatly disordered. The only remaining speaker Yorik, relying on the reputation he has cultivated in the past 2 months and the support of most members, has temporarily implemented a dictatorial rule by special means in special times. Although a small number of members are dissatisfied with the rule of Yorik, who has just taken office, this group of opposition forces was quickly wiped out in the face of the general trend. The part of the pirate group that is most difficult to recognize Yorik's status has actually been cleared out by the Sea Clan under Yorik's internal and external cooperation. In this way, in the following month, when Yorik was in power, the Shadow Island organization gradually stabilized. Most of the pirate groups have returned to the right track and started to resume their old business. Some large pirate groups that have been completely controlled by Yorik in secret still remain around the Shadow Island in the name of guarding against the counterattack of the Sea Clan. 1 month in office greatly improved Yorik's prestige. Most pirates thought that Speaker Yorik was a very good decision maker, especially in the eyes of the middle and lower pirates. Yorik was simply a savior who rescued them from the vortex of fighting with the Sea Tribe. Just when Yorik's reputation was rising, under the covert operation, a voice was getting louder and louder in the Shadow Island Parliament. Some members of the Parliament proposed that, although the battle with the Sea Tribe failed, the previous proposal of the pirates to establish a nation was a very good idea. Now the Shadow Island organization has reached a turning point, and it must change the way of existence in order to better continue in the changing situation. Establishing a nation is a very good choice. This is the argument of those members who propose to continue to implement the proposal to establish a nation. Very strangely, this argument was supported by several veteran members of the parliament as soon as it was proposed, and it was quickly recognized by the majority of members and the news was passed on to the lower level. In the middle, of course, Yufei's mental control played an indispensable role. When the news was passed down, most of the pirates reacted to being shocked for a while, and then became excited. Before the battle with the Sea Tribe, the proposal to establish a pirate nation was only known to a few people in the parliament. It was the first time for the middle and lower level pirates to hear about this proposal. For ordinary pirates, the proposal to establish a pirate nation was very exciting to them. No one is born to be a pirate. Even the capable pirates in the upper class actually have an open identity on the coast. Having a country that belongs to pirates is something that ordinary pirates dream of. Establish a nation. Support the establishment of a nation. For a long time, the call to establish a pirate nation has been getting higher and higher in the Shadow Island organization, forming a wave. After just 5 days of discussion and soliciting opinions, the Shadow Island organization unanimously determined the opinion on the establishment of a pirate nation. It is time for the Shadow Island organization to change its organizational structure. As for the new organizational structure, it was also determined after some discussion. Because the personnel in the Shadow Island organization are all pirates or pirate families, the general highly centralized national structure is naturally not feasible. The parliament finally decided to establish a federal country similar to the United Kingdom of Candela business. Of course, a federal country also needs a king. As the only remaining speaker and pirate king, Yorik naturally took the position of king as expected. Under the king, the Shadow Island Parliament was retained, but it was divided into 2 parts. After the pirate nation was established, the Shadow Island Parliament will be divided into the Federal Parliament and the People's Parliament, which can also be said to be the upper house and the lower house. Most of the members of the federal parliament were originally members of the Shadow Island Parliament, representing various large pirate groups in the states after the establishment of the nation. The newly emerged People's Parliament is composed of people's representatives elected by middle and lower level pirates and even pirate rangers and sea adventurers, and exercises some power. The King, the Federal Parliament and the People's Parliament are the power structure of the pirate country after the establishment of the pirate nation. The specific distribution of power is still under discussion. As for the management method of the country, it is reflected in the two words federation. The Shadow Island organization is not a strict organization, and it is not easy to centrally manage. Even if the pirate nation is established, the vast sea area and the scarcity of islands also determine that the new country cannot be managed like on land. According to the original division of power, the sea area covered by the Shadow Island organization was divided into 34 states, each of which was composed of a considerable number of small and medium-sized pirate groups, and one large pirate group. When dividing the islands, the balance was also taken into account as much as possible, and the areas and forces of the 34 states were placed on the same level. Unlike the modeled kingdom of Kandra business, the national class that the pirates were going to establish was more vague, and there was even no aristocracy. This was because most of the pirates became pirates because they were oppressed or even framed by the nobles. So after Yorick carefully considered everyone's opinions, he did not establish an aristocracy. The actual reason was that the existence of the aristocracy would reduce the king's ruling power, which was not what Yufei wanted to see. What he needed was a country where Yorick could make a decision, at least in terms of military affairs. In addition to the changes in power and management institutions, the biggest change was that the pirates no longer carried out looting. To be honest, not many people would be willing to live a life of blood and knife. Every year, there are not a few pirates killed by the regular army of coastal countries or even caravan guards. After the pirates established their country, if the pirates were unwilling to join the army, they would be assigned to various states and some coastal areas occupied by pirates to become citizens of the kingdom, and the kingdom would provide them with their own daily necessities. As for the kingdom's economic source, it was naturally the protection fee. Pirates who were unwilling to retire would be incorporated into the kingdom's army and become a tool to protect the kingdom and suck blood from other human countries. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.